to Tailgate Talk SEC, and we have got day 2 of the epic mock draft through Draft Professors, rounds 2 and 3 tonight. And I'm joined by Tell today. Tell, how you doing?
Doing good. I'm doing good.
Yeah, so we're excited to get day 2 started, and we already have the first pick of the second round in. The Jets go with Avion Terrell, the cornerback from Clemson. Now, Terrell, in all honesty, he was a guy that I was pretty surprised we didn't see go yesterday. I thought that there were enough teams that kind of had a need at corner that you might see Terrell go off the board, but he's first up on in the second round. Tell, what do you think about Terrell as a player?
I like Terrell a good bit. He is pretty high up for me on my board. He is a top player for me in the draft. Um, I think he is probably gonna. I mean, I have him down as a slot player. I think he
Mhm.
plays in the slot. I think his subpar testing just the other day kind of confirms he needs to probably stay in the slot. But I think I don't think he's, what was it, 4.62? I think he ran. I don't think he's actually 4.62. I think he's a little faster than that on tape, but he's not fast. But I like him a lot. I think you plug him in the slot. I mean, he's going to be really good there. I mean, with Aaron Glenn coming from Detroit and having a heavy slot presence there. I think he's going to want that slot presence. It makes a big deal. You need someone that can cover at least the intermediate stuff and then come down and be a willing tackler. And I think Avion Terrell's definitely that. I mean, he fits that to a bill, in my opinion. The speed things, I mean, they don't bother me as much when you're in the slot. Um, you know, unless you're going to see Mike Evans running a seam ball from the slot, or Christian Watson get moved into the slot. But I mean, you play a team that has those guys, you're going to get schemed somewhere else probably. So I actually like Avion Terrell there. I think that to go along with their pick of, I believe it was David Bailey, I think really it like really helps that defense. I mean, that defense was pretty bad. But if you can get David Bailey going off the edge, and if Avion Terrell really kind of slowing down your quick throw guys out of the slot, I think it's a big improvement.
Yeah, it's called the defensive haul. And we have the second pick of the second round already in as well. The New Orleans Saints go with Denzel Boston, a receiver from Washington. So we get our first receiver of the second round. The Saints didn't have a need there. And the receiver board, I thought, had a lot left on it after yesterday. I was looking at guys like Caleb Douglas, even Chris Bell, even though he has some injury concerns. Obviously, Denzel Boston is a really good player, but if you were taking a receiver here, would Boston have been your pick, or would you have gone with someone else here if you wanted a receiver?
So if I my pick at receiver there, when I look at my board and my receivers, I got David Boston at about receiver 8.
Mm-hmm.
I with this now the thing is, play style with the Saints. I understand it. I understand it. I mean, you already have Olave there as a big speed guy, and your smaller receiver, and Denzel Boston plugging right in makes sense. Some guys I have over him. Omar Cooper was over. He's over him, but I think Boston's the right fit for New Orleans, and what they need in that receiver room, which is a little bit more size, a little bit more just presence across the middle. Um, that's a good fit for me. I also like Ted Hurst though,
Mm-hmm.
a good bit. I think I actually like Ted Hurst more than Denzel Boston, which I don't know how that lands with most people. I just think there's a lot more juice to Ted Hurst, which is interesting because over the summer scouting, when I scouted Ted Hurst, one of my biggest things was I didn't think he had as much juice in 24 and 25. I think he has a lot, and but I mean, I think going a bigger receiver was the correct route. I guess if Denzel Boston's your flavor, then that's your flavor.
Yeah, I'm a big time fan of Ted Hurst too. I had heard of him. I had seen some of his clips during the season, but when I went down to the Senior Bowl in Mobile, I got to see him in person. Like, he was maybe the biggest guy there, and also the most fluid
Yeah.
and like the most agile looking
Yes.
guy. So he's a really
Mhm.
good player. So the Titans are on the clock here. They also have a need at receiver. I wouldn't be shocked if we see the Titans go receiver in the first few rounds. They could go. I mean, they could go Hurst right now.
Yeah.
So they'll
Mhm.
also some edge rushers is some of the Titans might need, or maybe an interior offensive lineman. But
Yes.
that receiver room, you have guys like Io Manor, you have Chimere DK, and kind of
Yes.
the aging Calvin Ridley. So I would expect them to go receiver here. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I think they really need to get a receiver. I mean, with a young quarterback, in my opinion, you cannot so just leave him out to dry. Now, Love as the second or their first round pick, that will help them a lot alleviate some stuff. The presence in the run game, the check downs, the screens, even the downfield receiving of Love is going to help a lot. I would think that they go receiver, but I would not blame them at all if they went offensive line somewhere.
Yeah.
If they went with a lineman they liked, I couldn't blame them at all. Whatever their top interior guy is or their top offensive tackle, because if you want to kick one of the tackles in to guard because that's what's going to be your best five, then I don't blame them at all. I think it needs to be receiver or line.
Yeah, I agree. And on that O line, seems kind of trendy in some other mocks to go center here. So looking at some of the centers still on the board, I don't think we saw one go off in the first round of our draft. But guys like Connor Lew from Auburn, Jake Slaughter from Florida, Parker Burlsford of Alabama, Pat Coonan from Indiana. How much tape on these guys have you watched? And if you were going center here, who is your top guy there at snap the ball?
My top center would be, let's see, let's pull it up. All right. So my top center, it would probably be I like Hecht a lot.
Hmm.
And yeah, I like Heck a lot, and I actually like Connor Lew a lot from Auburn. And Parker's an interesting one because I think Parker has a little bit of versatility thrown in there with him. But yeah, I mean, really, they went in, they fought all year with a rough line. Cam Ward struggled with the line. He's a player you want to be able to protect. Now, he obviously has mobility, but he will play on schedule when given the opportunity. So I think you protect for him, either protect for him with an interior offensive lineman or just go receive your best receiver. They really need someone that can separate for him. He didn't get much separation this past year. I mean, Ayu Manor is good for what he is, but he's not a separator.
Yeah, you talked about how good Cam Ward is when he is scrambling under pressure, but then go back to his college tape when he did have time. He was the calmest looking quarterback
Yes,
we've seen in a long time. Like he had so many plays
yes,
where his feet were barely even moving. He was dissecting the field, so he does have that skill set obviously to be able to play on schedule. He's cerebral enough to notice all that. So let's say this mock goes the way it will in real life. Having Jeremiah Love in the backfield with him and then getting a receiver here would help to really build that offense around your number one overall pick. And that's what you have to do if
yes.
you are the Titans who are trying to rebuild.
Yeah, and I was real high on Cam Ward when he was coming out. I mean, I know there's a lot of people. Some people weren't high on him. They were saying he was the only number one. He was only first overall because of the class. And I felt he was a first overall worthy quarterback. Now, I'm not saying he would have been first overall every class, but I think in most classes he would have had a argument to be the first overall quarterback taken.
Definitely. And the Titans pick is in. They do go Ted Hurst from Georgia State. So the guy that we've been talking
Yep.
about, he is the pick there. I mean, you kind of brought it up already, but just how good is that fit in Tennessee for Ted Hurst?
I think that's the perfect fit, in my opinion. I mean, you have Ayu Manor, who's your bigger, more dirty work wide receiver. You have Calvin Ridley, who's aging, but he is your more separation style receiver. But he's getting up there in age. He's getting hurt a lot. And then Chamari is. I think he played a good role this year. I don't think he's someone I really want in my 11 personnel lineup all the time. I think you want him as a special teamer. I think he's your fourth receiver that can stretch the field and use his speed. Ted Hurst gives you someone that can stretch the field. He has enough. He has the speed to stretch the field. He has the body control to work the sideline. He has shown in college he is not afraid to go across the middle and get the ball. And after the catch, he is really transformed this past year as being a lot better with his yak and just running away from guys and making some guys miss. Now, I don't think he is overly strong. I don't think he's going to bully people, but that's not the kind of receiver that Cam Ward works best with, in my opinion. I think he works best with a receiver where he's going to put it where only that receiver gets it, and someone like Ted Hurst will be the guy that goes and gets that ball.
Definitely. You kind of brought up the need for him to be a consistent player because of guys like Chim Dike. not really fitting in. I agree with you on
Mhm.
that. DK, I mean, he's unbelievable on special teams, returning kicks and
Yes.
punts, and he is a very viable receiver. We saw that during in college at Florida
Yes.
and Wisconsin, and some in the pros. But I do agree with you there. I think that receiver was a good pick because DK probably isn't that guy you want to rely on in your 11 personnel all the time. But on the clock now, we had the Las Vegas Raiders, and their pick in the first round was first overall. Not a big surprise. They went with Fernando Mendoza.
Yes.
And looking at some other needs, receiver, once again, another need for the Raiders. Could we see our third
Yeah.
string receiver off the board? But also interior D line. And one guy who's been a trendy pick in mocks for the Raiders here is Big Citrus from Ohio State, Dominique Orange. What do you think about him as a player, or who would you take at defensive tackle here? Who was on your big board at that position?
So so I do like Dominic Orange for what he is, which is just a big nose. He's gonna plug the gaps. But for me, I couldn't spend this pick on him. I couldn't spend pick was it 36 on him. I would have to go with someone that at least has the potential to offer me a little bit more juice in the passing game. Now, for me personally, my number one defense tackle, who I think is still on the board. Let me make sure. Let me see. Yeah, he's still on the board. Is my number one defense tackle is Lee Hunter, and which I know people dropped him down. He tested, but didn't test great. My thing is when you look at his game, he shows a lot of burst off the line, and when you're a defensive tackle with him, he's playing anywhere from a three tech to the nose, not playing anywhere else. You don't have to be fast. You don't have to test well. You have to be good in a phone booth, and you have to be able to get just right in the hip pocket of a defensive lineman or an offensive lineman. When you think about that, from where he's at to the hip pocket of the offensive lineman, it's 2 yards. And those first few steps, he is explosive. He has the size to anchor. He showed a lot more pass rush juice this past year at Tech when he was able to just pin his ears back and go. And so I think he can do either one. But if you want more juice, it would go with Lee Hunter. If you want a nose tackle, there's some available, and I wouldn't blame you if you go that way.
Yeah, I love Lee Hunter, and I was going to even bring up Caleb Banks too at defensive tackle.
Yeah,
But the pick is in. It's Caden McDonald from Ohio State. He's the
yeah,
defensive tackle that Vegas goes with. So, how much film did you see on him? What did you like about
yeah,
McDonald's tape, or maybe what do you think he lacks that a Lee Hunter or somebody else would have had in this
yeah.
spot for the
So
Raiders?
so I like McDonald. He is, in my opinion, the nose tackle of the class. If you want to put someone down and say, don't get moved, absorb double teams, let our linebackers have a little bit of freedom, Kenny McDonald's the one to go with. I don't think he offers any pass rush upside. I don't think he has pass rush upside. But when you're building this roster up from where it's at, which is it was pretty bad. Caden McDonald can be a foundational piece of a good run defense. And you can't get run on in any level of football. If any level of football you're giving up in the run game, you're not going to win because you're never going to get the ball.
So on the clock now are the Giants. Now I was going to ask you about some corners I they might go with, but their pick is already in. They go with Emmanuel Pregnon, the offensive guard from Oregon. So they do go offensive
Yeah.
line, which was another trendy mock draft pick here for the Giants. Out of all the guards, did you like Pregnon more than some others? Does that pick make sense for you here at 37?
Yes, it does. I think they were really weak there. I mean, they just signed Daniel Falele, who, if you ask any Ravens fan, they were happy to get him out of town. And I think Pregnon is a great pick. I think he's the second best guard in the class. And I'm surprised he honestly got there. I really expected someone in the tail end of the first round to take that pick. And really, it was the Seahawks, but they went Chase Basantes, which is, I guess, their next favorite interior offensive lineman. But Pregnon was my second favorite, and I think it's a good pick for the Giants. Again, you have to protect your young quarterbacks. You cannot let them get beat up and get bad habits.
So on the clock now are the Houston Texans at 38. While they're picking fast, I can't even tee this up anymore. They're
Yeah.
going defensive tackle as well. They take Christian Miller there on the defensive line. So Miller, we talked about some other D
Yeah.
tackles. Lee Hunter, still there. Didn't get picked. Caleb Banks hasn't gotten picked. How about Miller? What do you think about him?
I do like Miller. I have a second round grade on him. He's my IDL 4, I believe. Yes, he's my IDL 4. And that's with the caveat. That's with the caveat of my IDL 3 was Keldrick Falk because I don't think he can play on the edge. I think Falk needs to gain weight and go play 5 tech, 4 tech. But if you remove him, Miller would have been my ideal three right behind Peter Woods. I think he is strong, got a strong anchor. He offers a little bit more juice than McDonald or Orange in the past game. And he is one that I understand there's people out here that have him D tackle one, and I understand it because I think as of right now, he probably is the best defensive tackle in the class. I think his ceiling isn't as high as a couple of them. Caleb Banks, really high ceiling. I think Lee Hunter has a high ceiling because of the get off he's shown at the size he has, and he doesn't even look. He's not holding great weight either, Lee Hunter. I mean, he's one that if he gets into a program that really gets his weight under control, he has. I think his ceiling is really high. But Christian Miller, I am a fan of. I think he is good in the run game. I think he has pass rush ability, and so going him, especially Houston. I mean, you already have a defense that is one the best, if not, I mean, second or first in the NFL last year. Them in Seattle, and you add a guy like Christian Miller, it just allows everyone else in that front group to have a better chance of getting a one-on-one.
So now on the clock here with the Cleveland Browns at 39. In their first round, they addressed receiver, going Cardinal Tate from Ohio State, and they addressed offensive tackle, going with Caleb Lomu out of Utah. Now, there's some buzz that the Browns might draft another quarterback this year. I don't know about you. I don't think they would do that in round two. That seems too early, given that you have Shador. I believe they give him some run. Dylan Gabriel is still in that room. What do you think the Browns go with here, having already addressed their needs? And now the pick is in, so you can't answer that question. They're going Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo. Now, for me, McNeil-Warren, he's a guy who didn't get a whole lot of shine being at Toledo. And, there were some bigger name safeties in the class that took a lot of that attention. I like his tape. I like his tape a good bit. What do you think about McNeil-Warren?
I like McNeil-Warren. He is pretty high up. I mean, he's my safety five, which I have a safety a lot higher than most that's ahead of him. But I like McNeil-Warren. I think it's a good add for Cleveland into the secondary room. They already have Hickman and Delpit, who are they're solid players. I would think McWarren being in there means out of those three, one of them is going to move to the nickel. Who it is, I'm not sure. That's however that plays out for them. Because I think was it Miles Harden or Miles Bryant, one of them is their slotted nickel starter. And so I think there's a good chance that one of these safety guys moves into the nickel position for them, just to offer them a little bit more size in the nickel, especially when you look at that division. I mean, you're playing the Ravens with Derrick Henry. You're playing the Steelers, who have always been a ground and pound team, even though Jalen Warren's a little bit smaller of a back. And so I think having an extra secondary player, especially safety, is never going to hurt in the AFC North.
Now we have the Chiefs on the clock. In their first round, they addressed their edge concerns, taking T.J. Parker out of Clemson, and they went corner. They took Jermod McCoy out of Tennessee, who I was actually surprised by that McCoy pick. I love him.
Yes.
I mean, ahead of last season, I had him as my best corner in the SEC. Then he couldn't play because of injury. So just real quick, what do you think about McCoy at 9? Is that too high risk, even though we know how good of a player he is, or what would you have done there if you were KC at 9?
If I was Kansas City, I'm taking Jermod McCoy.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not the chances of you ever seeing that caliber of a secondary player while Patrick Mahomes is healthy and on your team is slim to none. I mean, and they've always been able to just develop their corners, but give a guy with this ability to that defense, and I mean, it could be game changing. McCoy's my CB1. I mean, it is what it is. I think he is better than Delane. I think when you watch the film, some of the stuff he does is kind of unbelievable. It's just a matter of, is he healthy? But I mean, he tested great the other day.
Yeah, he's an incredible player. So he went top 10 in this mock here. And the Chiefs are back up addressing edge and corner. What would you do here? I mean, receivers, another trendy edge for him, or another trendy pick for him. They already have their edge rusher. If you're in KC's shoes right now, what position do you go with, and is there a guy that you like?
Yeah, I mean, receiver is a major need for them. I think they've learned they cannot keep going with the way they are at receiver. And then when I look at who's available, my top ranked guy, it depends on what kind of receiver they want. I think they need someone that can stretch the field and not just a guy that's just fast. They've tried that. It doesn't work. Rashee Rice is going to be their possession guy. So like Omar Cooper, who's high up on a lot of boards, who I believe is still available, I don't think he works here because he's just Rashee Rice. I mean, in my opinion, that's just the role he would play, which is the slot receiver that would catch your drags, catch your bulls, and have a little bit of downfield presence here and there. And I don't think you want to do another one of those. And then so I go and look. Ted Hurst is gone. Denzel Boston is gone, and I think it really comes down to two guys, in my opinion, because which are yeah, it comes down to two guys in my opinion, and that's Chris Bell, which
Hmm.
is going to be another Jamon McCoy thing. Injury, physically talented.
Hmm.
And if he reaches his potential on the Kansas City Chiefs, what kind of offense are we going to have, or is the rest of the NFL going to have to deal with? Because he can go downfield, he can stretch the middle of the field, he has the yak ability, he's big, he's fast. Now, the other one is, which this would be high, is Malachi Fields. Because you can just sit him and roll balls all day. Just tell him to stretch the field, go stretch the field, have Mahomes, he's going to work from Rashee Rice to you, and that's just how it's going to go. I don't think they go Malachi Fields. I don't think that's Andy Reid's flavor of receiver.
Hmm.
I think he likes to have speed. He likes to have someone that can yak. Chris Bell wouldn't be surprising. The receiver I have higher than most, is Deshaun Stribling.
Hmm.
I don't think he'll get taken here. I have a two on him. I like him a lot. I think as a perimeter receiver, he is going could be a really reliable two, and can just do a lot of work on the sideline. A lot of good at back shoulder balls, good at comebacks. He isn't. He's tough after the catch. I like Deshaun Stribling. I think he'd be a good fit here.
Hmm. Just talking about those go ball receivers, because you brought up that archetype. A guy that I've seen really differing opinions on is Chris Browser from Tennessee. Do you have any thoughts on him? Is too high? Would you be willing to take him here? What are your thoughts on Brazel?
Yeah. So I'm not as high on Brazel as others. He's pretty low on my receiver board. I mean, I think he's like in the 20s for me.
Hmm.
I know one thing got brought up. I think it's like he took like two snaps on the left side of the field.
Hmm.
And like every snap he's ever taken is on the right side of the field. And the two he took on the left, I think one was a run and one was like a penalty. Like he only lines up on the right, and to me that is concerning. That is odd. Like to that degree. I get there's a lot of some colleges have that. To me, that it's kind of odd like that. But when I watch his game, I do think he is a fluid mover for his size. What concerns me though is like some people will like his contested catch rate or his contested catch ability. I feel like is very hit or miss. I mean,
Yeah.
he has some catches where he'll go up and he'll come down with the ball, but then you look at how he came down with the ball, and it's like it bounced into his hands. Like it bounced off the defender, bounced into his hands. I don't actually see him go pluck it out of the air as often as I would like. So, but I feel like he fits what they've done in the past that hasn't worked out as well, which is just
Right.
these really fast receivers that actually aren't as good at the catch point as you would hope.
Hmm. Looks like the pick is in for the Chiefs, and it's finally one of the D tackles that we brought up. Oh, it was
Yep.
Khalil Banks. Now it's Lee Hunter. They amend the pick. So Lee Hunter
Okay.
from Texas Tech is the
Yeah.
pick for the Chiefs. They do go D line. We talked about him a lot, but you like Lee Hunter here to Kansas City?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm a big Lee Hunter fan. I think
Hmm.
he has the ability to be the best D tackle in the class. And as of right now, they still got Chris Jones.
Hmm.
And my thing is, you get into a second and long, anything where it's more than likely going to be a pass, and you can tell Chris Jones and Lee Hunter, pin your ears back and go.
Yeah.
I think teams are going to have an issue. Now, all these big bulky edges they've been drafting, like Karloftis and them, who aren't as much of a one-on-one presence. Well, their job just got a lot easier because someone on the interior has to get double teamed. Chris Jones can get double teamed. Now, Lee Hunter's one-on-one with the Eagles pinned back, and so are the guys on the outside.
Hmm. The Bengals, who are 41 on the clock here, they've already made their pick, and it's C.J. Allen, the linebacker from Georgia. I love this guy. I was honestly a little surprised that he fell all the way down to 41 here, although I guess there wasn't that much of a fit for him. But what do you think about C.J. Allen? I mean, when I look at him, I kind of have this blind faith in linebackers and defenders that Kirby Smart puts in the NFL. Like, I know the brand of physicality they bring. I know how smart they play the game. So what's your read on C.J. Allen?
Yeah, so funny enough, I'm not as high on CJ Allen.
No, okay.
Um, I have him LB7,
Hmm.
which is extremely low, and I understand that. I think he plays the run well. I think he has a really good feel in coverage, which is like I can't say for some other linebackers.
Hmm.
I think he has a good feel in coverage. I think he's limited physically in the coverage. I think he isn't fast. I don't think he really can flip his hips and run. I think if you can get it, if all he has to do is worry about from hash to hash and nothing outside of that, nothing anywhere else, nothing past 10 yards down the field, he's fine.
Hmm.
And then coming downhill, he's solid. The only reason I have him lower is because I think there's some linebackers that are either really good in pass coverage and they do give up a little bit of the run presence like CJ Allen, or there's one that I think is the best run defender in the class, and he does give up some
Hmm.
some pass presence. But it's a give and take. And so if you want to take CJ Allen and say, I know he's really good against the run, he's serviceable against the pass, then I can't blame you.
Yeah.
I just think he is what he is. And I think that's what it is. And I think he's going to come in. He's going to be a day one starter, and he's going to be solid. And as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers need a linebacker,
Hmm.
a lot of people are mocking on CJ Allen, and I'm fine with it. He's just a little lower on my board because there's some guys I really do like.
Right. Now, the Buffalo Bills on the clock here at pick 42. This is their first pick of the draft. And looking at their needs, it's edge, it's linebacker, it's receiver, it's positions that we've seen already go a good bit.
Yeah.
Especially in this mock and we think we'll see in the real draft. If you're Buffalo, what do you think they go with here?
Man, that's hard to say because I mean I think their needs are at premium positions.
Yeah.
And like that's hard when you're picking in the back of the first round.
Hmm.
And now, saying that, I think my edge two is on the board, which is Akeem Mesidor.
Hmm.
And if Akeem Mesidor, I believe he's on the board. I will double check. If Akeem Mesidor is on the board, which he is, I would run the card in. I'd sprint it in because with this, in my opinion, it's perfect because yes, he's old, but you're a win now team.
Hmm.
Like you can say, well, he may not get through a whole second contract with us, but when you're knocking on the door with Josh Allen, you take what's going to help you now, and I think he's the biggest impact now.
I agree with that. I mean, the Bills already also have Greg Rousseau at the edge, another Miami guy, so they could easily have a tandem of Hurricanes coming off the edge. And I kind of talked about blind faith in defenders that Kirby Smart produces. I kind of think the same thing with linemen that Mario Cristobal produces. On our ball, I know that they were coached very well. I know they're playing the game, how they have to play on the edge. So the Buffalo Bills, the pick is in, they do go edge, but they go with Gabe Jacas out of Illinois. So not Mesidor. Akeem Mesidor still on the board here as we get to pick number 43. I think that we're both pretty surprised by that, but what do you think about Gabe here?
So I like Gabe. I'm not super high on him. I like him. I think he's a solid player, but I think he's more of a day, like early day three player, maybe a late day two. I feel like Gabe Yakis he's good against the run. He is solid against the pass. I feel like I feel like it maybe got put in because their new defense, they feel like he may fit better. I just think Mesidor is just a better pass rusher.
Hmm.
And when it's in, I think Mesidor is a disruptor. And I think Gabe Yakis is going to be more of just a kind of committee rusher.
Definitely. So on the clock now here, we have their division rival in Buffalo in the Miami Dolphins here at pick 43. Their two picks. They went with Francis Mauigoa onto the offensive line from Miami, so they keep him at home, and they went Colton Hood at corner. If you're Miami here, they've already addressed O-line and corner. I kind of thought they were going to go receiver early on because of, Jaden Waddle is gone, uncertainty around Tyreek Hill. Do you think that they go receiver here or do they go somewhere else?
I mean, you almost feel like they have to go receiver.
Hmm.
Like, I feel like they have it's another position, another team where they have a ton of holes. They're rebuilding. You almost feel like they have to go receiver though, because like I mean, can you really do this to Malik Willis? Now, granted, they give him a lot of money. I get it, so he can't complain too much. But they need a receiver. I mean, I love their picks before this. Colton Hood, I got a round one grade on. Francis Mauigoa, I think he's the best tackle in the class.
Hmm.
And even if he has to move inside a guard, he's going to be stellar at it. I love those two picks. I think they need to go receiver. Question is, what receiver are they going to go? I mean, what's going to fit their system? I'm not quite sure what's going to fit that system.
Well, interestingly enough, it's actually not going to matter. The pick is in. They go with Zion Young, the edge rusher from Missouri. So we have back-to-back edges off the board. A lot of edges have gone off here in just the past 15, 20 picks. So Zion Young, he's a player that I do like. I like to say from Missouri a little bit. He had some complimentary help on that D-line with him. What do you think of Zion Young here? Another edge that's not Akeem Mesidor off the board. Do you
Yeah,
like Zion?
I like Zion. I do like Zion. I think he's definitely more of a floor pick than a ceiling pick. I don't think Zion's ever going to bring you a crazy pass rush, but I think he's going to bring you a very physical presence off the edge in the run game. And I think he has some physical tools where maybe his pass rush gets a little better. I don't think he's ever going to be like a 14, 15 sack guy. Your hope, in my opinion, with Zion Young is he becomes more of like a Yaya Diaby type. Hey, we're gonna get 8, 9 sacks, but he's gonna be a chaos guy coming off the edge, really push linemen around.
Definitely. And so now the Jets are on the clock, and they've drafted pretty well. He took David Bailey in the first round. Where are the other picks? I just lost my head. He just took Jordan Tyson from Arizona State, and he started off this round with Avion Terrell from Clemson. The Jets might be in the market for a quarterback. And, Ty Simpson's been a guy who's been linked to this Jets draft pick if they want him at quarterback. But Ty's a pretty polarizing prospect, too. First off, what do you think about Ty Simpson as a prospect? And do you think the Jets go quarterback here, or will they hold on a little bit more?
Ty Simpson, I see the tools, I see the upside, but he worries me. He's a 1 year starter as his senior year at Alabama. That last game, he did not even finish the game as the starter. And now there's a lot more than just him during that game. But I see a guy that has a lot of tools, not a lot of experience, and has shown a lot of flaws. Now, granted, you give him to the Jets, and you're telling me he gets that offensive line, he gets Garrett Wilson, and then theoretically a healthy Jordan Tyson, then I think that he could be successful, and I would understand dropping him into that system. I wouldn't drop him into Arizona.
Yeah. I mean, you brought up the term there, healthy Jordan Tyson. Talk about him for a minute. Are you concerned about him long term staying healthy, or do you think just the past year or so has kind of been a string of bad luck injuries that you're not worried about at all?
Yeah, I'm I can't say that I'm not not worried at all. Um, I am a little worried that he just constantly has injury issues. Most of his injuries are like kind of one-off things, though. It's not like the same reoccurring injury constantly. Now, right now, the hamstring has lasted a while, but hamstrings and they can last. But I mean, he has the rest of the offseason after this to just rest. Whatever team drafts him will know the severity of it. And I think Jordan Tyson healthy is the number 2 receiver in this class. I have him as my second receiver. I think he is phenomenal. I mean, when I watched him, I get he's bigger, but he reminded me of Odell Beckham with just how smooth he is.
Yeah, he was incredible last year with the Sun Devils in that playoff run because obviously you had Sam Lovett at quarterback, you had Scadaboo at running back, but in terms of receivers, he kind of had to go do it himself. There wasn't really
Yes.
another guy in that receiver room for the Sun Devils that was like, taking double teams and taking coverages. So he had to go really do it by himself. So I was really impressed with his consistent production, that big playability, and like you said, just the fluidity, the athleticism, and how much he already looks like a pro. So we're still here waiting on the Jets. What do you think they go with? I mean, we talked about Ty, how he might be a decent fit in New York, but if you were the Jets GM in this spot with who's left, where you go?
Man, I mean, when I look at it, I mean, your offensive line is pretty good. You brought in receivers. Your defense is getting better. I think you have the ability to kind of go where you want.
Hmm.
You can take BPA. You don't want to tie yourself to a quarterback, then don't tie yourself to a quarterback.
Hmm.
So when you look at their needs, I mean, I think, man, it's hard. It's really hard. I think just a playmaker.
Well, speaking of playmakers, I think they just took one. They took Eli Stowers out of Vanderbilt, their tight
Okay.
end. I mean, he's an incredible athlete. I live in Nashville, so I got to go see him play a few times. He
Okay.
just makes plays that you don't normally see tight ends make. So, do you like
Yeah.
Eli here? I believe he's our first tight. No, he's not. Sorry, Kenny City was the first time off the board. But beyond Sadiq, did you have Stowers at number 2? And do you like this fit for him in New York?
So I like the fit for him. I don't have him as my tight end too. I think he's very situational.
Hmm.
Well, I say situational. The situation he goes to, go to the Jets may work because you have the guy from last year, Mason. Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on his name. You have a tight end that puts his hand in the dirt, will block, allowing Eli Stowers to flex out.
Hmm.
You know, run the seam balls. So I actually do think it's a good fit for the Jets, building a system for whoever the quarterback's going to be.
Yeah, so the Baltimore Ravens, their pick was in quickly, and our guy's finally off the board. Akeem Mesidor off
Yep.
the edge from Miami. He is going up to Baltimore. So we've already talked about him as a player a ton. So how about the fit here? I mean, they obviously signed Trey Henderson to the Ravens. And now Mesidor either under him or next to him. Do you like that fit for him?
Oh yeah. I mean, being able to just sit and having Messidor fall in your lap in the second round for another team like the Bills win now. I mean, just like the Bills, they've been knocking on the door. I mean, it's going to be. I mean, I think it's a great pick.
So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, I'll go through this one quickly because you're now on the clock. They do take a linebacker like you brought up in Jake Goldley from Cincinnati. So right now, you're on the clock. You're at pick 47. I'm going to sit back and let you talk us through your pick here.
Okay. Yeah. So watching how this round is played out, has actually played out how I need it to, meaning my target of this round is a linebacker. As much as I like Jake Golday, it's not Jake Golday. I think Jake Golday does not fit exactly what we need in Indianapolis. I think we are really hurting for a true inside linebacker. I mean, there's some guys we just can't go to war with right now. And so with that statement said, I'm taking my LB1 in this entire draft, which is going to be Josiah Trotter. I am a huge Josiah Trotter fan. I mean, he will come down and he will hit you in the mouth. He is not, I admit, he is not the greatest coverage guy. But when I look at what the Colts have right now, their secondary is pretty strong, other than one of the safety spots. Their defensive line is just dominant. And the way I see it is Josiah Trotter can just come downhill and hit every running back in the mouth. And that's what he does best. He is a thumper. He's an old school style, just like his dad was. But I think there's physical ability for him to get better in the passing game. He can run a little bit. He just doesn't have much of a feel for it. But he's only a 2-year starter. I think he just turned 21 years old. I think with what the Colts have on the D line with Buckner, with Grover, I believe it's Grover, just eating up all the space and letting him come downhill and clean up anything that may leak through there. I think you have one of the best defenses in the NFL when it comes to stopping the run.
Yeah, Trotter this past preseason, when he transferred up to Missouri to the SEC, he's a guy that I identified pretty quickly through my own scouting as like, this guy's going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
And everything you said was totally accurate. And the Falcons here now on the clock at pick 48, they're trading it to the Eagles. Falcons dropping down to 54. So
Okay.
Philly is moving up now to number 48. And the Eagles, their needs tend to be edge, offensive line, and tight end. And going through what they've drafted so far, if I can find it quickly without making this an awkwardly long thing, they took Monroe Freeling, the offensive tackle from Georgia. So they've already addressed that need. So now with that in mind, you're the Eagles here. Where do you think they go with O-line already addressed?
With O-line already addressed, I mean, the Eagles have always been able to just sit back and let somebody fall to them. I think the A.J. Brown trade looming out there can affect this. Now they just brought in Dontavian Wicks, but I think they really need a receiver or a defensive player.
They did go defense. They went with Chris
Yeah.
Johnson, the corner out of San Diego State. I love this guy too. Same deal as McKinney Ward from Toledo. I think he was a smaller school guy who didn't quite get the shine, at least in the public sort of casual
Yeah.
fan eye because of where he played. But Chris Johnson, you like him here?
So Chris Johnson is a corner I have, I think, a third on, maybe a little lower. Maybe a 4, but my thing with Philly is I'm wondering where they plan on playing him.
Yeah.
You have, you have Reek Woolen, who you just brought in. You have you have Cooper. You have Quinyon Mitchell. And so my question is, where are you playing him? I mean, BPA. That's what the Eagles usually do, just BPA, and it's worked for them. And so can't blame them. I think I would have gone a different corner if I was them. I believe Abney or Cisse are still out there. And then a corner I like a lot, if you want to talk, speaking of small school, is Charles Demings at a SFA.
Hmm.
Charles Demings is someone I'm very high on. I mean, when you watch his tape, it's his competition's lower, but he just dominates them. I mean, and in lower competition, that's what you got to see. I mean, he just gets out there and he flat out dominated everyone he played against, and he looked like the best athlete on the field in every game he played.
So now we have the Vikings on the clock, and their first round pick, they went with Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. And that is their only pick so far in this draft. So looking at the needs for the Vikings, safety was on there. People also think they should probably go with receiver, maybe even take a big time center. A guy like Sam Hecht has been mocked to Minnesota a good bit. So the Vikings, do you like a receiver here, or do you want to go with a center?
I think they should go with a center. I think with the way the receiver board's played out right now, I don't think that'd be the way I'd go. You still have Jordan Addison this year. I understand that long term he may not be there, but I wouldn't force that wide receiver pick if you still have Addison at least for this year. I would probably take Sam Hecht or Lou at Auburn and just shore up that offensive line for Kyler or McCarthy. I would think it'd be Kyler, but whichever one it is, neither of them has played well when they're not protected.
So, I mean, yeah, just going through some of those centers a little bit. I'm trying to see if there's one we haven't talked about yet. I mean, we brought up Slaughter. What do you think about James Brockermeyer, actually, from Miami? He's sort of polarizing, too, because of his
Yeah.
size. But if you're
Yes.
watching Brockermeyer, what do you like? What do you maybe not like about him?
So James, I like him. I'm really big on Lou and on Hecht. I like Brockmeyer. I don't usually have an issue with smaller centers because movement matters so much. I mean, you look at one of the best centers in the NFL is Brewer at the Dolphins, and he weighed like what, maybe 280 something pounds when he came out.
Hmm.
So I think movement is means a lot, but I would prefer Lou or Hecht in this position.
So the Vikings actually don't go center. Their pick is in, and they go with Caleb Banks at D tackle from Florida, the guy that we've talked about. So now him and Lee Hunter, two of our favorite D tackles, are now off the board. And now we have another divisional rival back to back picks here in the Detroit Lions, who are now on the clock. Looking at their three needs, looking at something like an offensive lineman, an edge, or a corner. And their first round pick, I remember being notable. I remember being surprised by what they went with, I think. They went with Spencer Fano. Sorry, I wasn't surprised. I loved it. That's why, because I like
Yeah.
Fano
Oh,
and
that's
Sewell on different ends. I love that idea so much. So with that already banked out, the Lions immediately pick is in. They go with Kyle Lewis at linebacker. So
Yep.
we talked about your linebacker board a bit earlier. Where was Kyle Lewis? What do you think about him going to Detroit?
I mean, I really like Kyle Lewis a lot. It really comes down to where are you going to play him? Exactly how are you going to play him? Because I have him as a second round grade. My only question is, does he play inside at linebacker, or do you let him try and play a little bit of safety? But with Detroit, I mean, when you look at who they got, I mean, I don't think they really want to play Malcolm Rodriguez that often, if they don't have to. And then you have Derek Barnes. Obviously, Jack Campbell's going to be in there every play. Derek Barnes has played well. I'm thinking in three linebacker sets, they're going to have Campbell, Barnes, and Lewis. And then when it goes to passing downs, I think Barnes is going to come out. And then I think you're going to have Campbell and Lewis. And Lewis can cover. I mean, he can cover receivers. I mean, he can do whatever you want. And I think you just put him on the backside of stuff and let him go. And he's gonna. I mean, he's gonna make plays. He's gonna get interceptions. He's gonna chase stuff down from the backside. I really do like the Kyle Lewis pick in Detroit.
So following the Lions, the Carolina Panthers were on the clock. They took Jacob Rodriguez in the first round at linebacker, and they got their second round pick in here pretty quickly. They go Chris Bell, the receiver from Louisville. So we talked about how he's got the incredible athletic traits, but the injury problems. But you brought up that it doesn't really bother you. Do you like him in Carolina?
So yeah, I do. So I think he can be great. Only problem is you just drafted someone kind of similar in Leggett not that long ago. Um, I think Chris Bell has much more. I think he's shown a lot more natural receiver ability than Leggett did. Um, I think if you can get him healthy and you can work him underneath, because Ted Aroa can stretch the field. You don't have to ask Chris Bell to come back from the injury, stretch the field. if you want to hit him on the underneath stuff, hit him in the quick game, and him make yak happen because you need yak. In my opinion, Bryce Young is your quarterback. You need some yak because I want to ask him to stretch the field too often, and I think Chris Bell is a good fit there if you're comfortable with the health.
So before we get to the Packers being on the clock here at 52, we have another trade. The Falcons, who had traded down from 48 to 54, they're going down again. They're trading with New England. So the Falcons now have the 63rd pick, and the Patriots move up to 54. But for right now, we have the Packers sitting at the 52nd overall pick and looking at some of their needs. Another team that could benefit from grabbing an edge because Micah Parsons, some health issues, not ideal. Also, corner, offensive line. Where do you think they go here? A guy like Dalen Everett at corner, he's been mocked to Green Bay. Do you like Everett, or do you think the Packers should go somewhere else here?
Yeah, so when I look at my available corners and my available edges who are still floating around out there, I mean, I really look at corner and I see guys like I've mentioned Charles Demmings, Keith Abney is out there, right? I think that would be a really good fit in Green Bay. I like Chris Abney a lot. I think he's a really smooth athlete, a very unique player. I also go back and look at my edges and the edges I like that are still out there. I mean, I believe our Mason Thomas is still out there. He has a lot of juice off the edge. And is Keldrick Falk? No, is no one taking Keldrick Falk?
Falk is yeah. Oh no, sorry, he did. He went late first round. He went
Late first, right?
yeah.
Okay, yeah. So I'm looking if you want something off the edge like R. Mason Thomas and receive corner Keith Abney is where I'd go.
And it's looking at the Packers. Like, is there is there a long shot player here that you think they might go? We've been surprised a little bit. Like, is there a position that the Packers could upgrade that isn't sort of the trendy, pick that they should go with that we could get blindsided by here?
Yeah. So I mean, I think when I look and think about the Packers, they brought in Zaire Franklin, so they don't really need to bring in another linebacker type. I think really. I mean, if I was a Packers fan, I would have been screaming and hollering, hoping we could somehow get Jake Golday. Because I think you put him as the overhang. I think he has some rush ability, the coverage ability, but he's gone. And I mean, a position I feel, if I'm a Packers fan, I feel like I could really upgrade on. I mean, it is corner, but outside of corner, what's the health of Tucker Kraft right now?
Right.
Because I'll be honest, I think it needs to be corner, but I think tight end could be sneaky for them late in the draft.
So the Packers do go corner here. The pick is in, and they go with Brandon Cisse, the DB out of South Carolina. You brought his name up earlier. What do you like so much
Yes.
about his game?
I like Cisse a lot. I mean, he he's got good size. He plays all. I mean, he is in your face. He's definitely a corner that fits certain teams. You want to press. You want corners up in their face. I think Brandon Cisse is the way to go, and I think he's a great pick. In my opinion, it was him or Abney. In my opinion, Abney's the smoother, more transitional athlete. I think Cisse is a little more imposing of a player with his length, with his just his height, you know. And so, yeah, Cisse is a good pick in my opinion. I think he's a borderline first round player that fell.
So now we have the Steelers on the clock here at 53rd. Their first round pick, they addressed receiver and they took Omar Cooper Jr. So you're looking at some other needs for the Steelers, interior offensive line or safety. We've talked a bunch about about some IOLs that we like. Do you think that they take one of these O linemen that we've been talking about, or do they take another DB in the back end?
Yeah, I think they need to take an O line at this point. O line or here, I think nickel. I mean, a nickel back. I mean, I don't know how you feel about there's Brandon Eccles, their slotted starter. But there's some guys that I like a lot that play the slot. I mean, is D'Angelo Pond still out here? Or
He actually, we're two picks
he-
back, just got taken off the board. But so the Steelers, they did go with guard. They went with Keelan Ridge out of Georgia Tech, and the Patriots at 54 did just grab Pond
D'Angelo,
from
yeah.
Indiana. So talk to me about both those picks, both those guys.
Yeah.
What do you like about those fits?
Yeah. So, we mentioned interior offensive line for Pittsburgh, and I think that's a great pick. You can't keep continuing this just patched together offensive line. Give some protection to I'm assuming going to be Aaron Rodgers back, in my assumption. and just protect him because he doesn't work well under pressure anymore. I would have loved D'Angelo Pons. New England takes him though. I mean, you put him back there with Christian Gonzalez. I mean, what are we gonna do?
Yeah.
I mean, I can't believe he was able to fall to New England. And you put and what's crazy is you think about their secondary. I mean, they have Carlton Davis, they have Christian Gonzalez, they have Marcus Jones, who's been a good nickel player. I mean, and then their safeties are Kevin Byard and Craig Woodson. I mean, they have an abundance of secondary players at this point. And D'Angelo Pons just makes plays. Where he's going to fit, I don't know, and I wouldn't care if I'm a Patriots fan. It's just he's going to play football.
Following the Patriots was the Chargers at 55, and they got a quick pick in. They went with Jennings Dunker, the interior lineman from Iowa. I
Yeah.
got to see this guy in Mobile. He looks so much like an offensive guard. He fits that
Yeah.
exact mold. What do you like about Dunker's game?
I like Dunker a lot. I mean, it's hard to go wrong when you get an offensive lineman from an interior guy from like Iowa,
Yeah.
Wisconsin,
Yeah.
and the Chargers really need it. I wouldn't want Cole Strange starting for me. Jennings Dunker, I think, is a plug and play guard. Will he be like an all pro? Probably not, but I think his floor is pretty high. I think he can plug in right there beside Joel and just hang in there and not be an issue.
So now at 56 on the clock are the Jacksonville Jaguars. This is their first pick in this mock, and looking at their needs, it's D tackle, it's edge, it's linebacker, things like that. Chris McClellan is a guy who's been mocked at D tackle from Missouri to Jacksonville. Do you like McClellan for the Jaguars? Do you just like DT for the Jags, or do you think they go somewhere else entirely?
I, I would think- I think they go somewhere else. I think they need to fill like linebacker's pretty rough right now. Um, you lose arguably one of the best, if not the best linebacker in the game. And yes, you still have Ludacon, who I like, but then you have Ventrell Miller, and I think you can roll with Ventrell Miller for the season. And then when I'm looking at the top linebackers available, I'm seeing Anthony Hill still out there.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand Anthony Hill is not a downhill thumper, and people have his reservations about how hard he's going to come downhill and hit, but he can cover ground, he can cover, and I think he could be really good. I mean, with that Jacksonville offense, if they're putting up points and other teams having to throw the ball, Anthony Hill will find the football and he will run sideline to sideline for you.
Yeah, Anthony Hill was a guy who I liked a lot last season too during his final year at Texas, and the pick is in for the Jags. They go defensive tackle. They take Daryl Jackson Jr. from Florida State. We hadn't brought him up yet, but where was he on your board of D tackles, and do you like that fit for Jacksonville?
Yeah. So Daryl Jackson was lower on my board of D tackles. I think he's very up and down throughout his film. There are flashes of a very good starter, but I think there's way too many times where he's just non-existent. He just kind of disappears, and in my opinion, he's like Caleb Banks light. I mean, he's just like you may get very lucky and he turns into the flashes, but I think he's just going to disappear a lot. I think he'll have every now and then he'll flash up on in a game. He'll shoot through there. He'll throw somebody over. But I think there's too often where he just disappears in games and doesn't make an impact.
So now we have the Bears on the clock here at 57, and with their first round pick, they went with Caden Proctor out of Alabama. Before we get into this next pick, I want to get your thoughts on Proctor as a prospect because he's also, for as highly rated as he was, how athletic he is, he can also be slightly polarizing.
Yeah. So I like Caleb Proctor a decent amount because everyone wants to slot him at guard, and if that's where he plays, that's fine. And I think he can go do it. I mean, he's just a football player. I mean, he just gets out there, he mauls people, he can move. I think you can put him out there on the edge if you want, let him fail, and then just kick him inside. I think Proctor, after Malioga, he's kind of Malioga-esque in my opinion. I think Malioga is just the best version of Proctor. I like Proctor though. I think he's going to start in the NFL for a long time. It's just a matter of is he going to be tackle or guard. I'm not sure. But I would let him go out there to tackle because I think he can hang out there.
So looking at the Bears now with their second round selection, I think you have to go DB, mainly safety. You lost Kevin Byard and Jaquan
Yeah.
Brisker in the offseason. Do you agree with that? Do you think they go safety? And if you do, who should they pick here?
Yeah, so you can go safety. I mean, they brought in Kobe Bryant, who I think is a good player. I think Kobe Bryant will be fine. Cam Lewis, I'm not comfortable with Cam Lewis starting 17 games for me. And so when I look at the safeties, I mean, there's some safeties I like. AJ Halsey's still available. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know how AJ Halsey's lasted this long. I think he is a really good low hole play. Like I think he can play. He can do. I wouldn't want him my single high. I wouldn't want him as my single high.
Hmm.
But I think he can be your low hole safety. And I think he can be your split field safety. He's going to come downhill. He's going to try and knock a chin strap off, and he has a nose for the football. I like AJ Halsey a lot. I think he fits this mold that they of defense that they want. I mean, you got these physical guys in Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, and Tyreek Stevenson. I think he just falls right in with them.
Hmm. Not that I think he goes here. I'd be shocked if he gets picked in round two here. But I want to get your thoughts on Michael Taft, a safety from Texas. He's a smaller guy, and I talked to him in Mobile, and he said he wanted to break down the stereotypes, prove to everybody that he is a legitimate player. What do you think about Taft? Well, I don't think he goes here, but down the line, where do you have Taft graded out, and what do you think of him as a player?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a good player. I think the size gets him. Um,
Hmm.
he's a day three guy for me.
Yeah.
And he's a good player. I don't I'm not high on him. I think there's some safeties in this class that have just more physical ability, and there's sometimes, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Sometimes I like Taft. I think he's a guy that a team should take in around four, round five, probably round four. Worst case scenario, you're probably gonna have a really good special teams player, in my opinion. Like worst case scenario, but there's a chance he does just have a nose for the football, breaks your starting lineup, and just never lets go of the job. I just think that there's a high floor but a low ceiling with Taft, in my opinion.
Hmm. And talking about just some more safeties here, while I wait for the Bears, assuming that's where they go. You know, a guy like Bud Clark from TCU, we saw him make plays at the Senior Bowl. Maybe
Yeah.
even a guy like Jacoby Thomas from Miami. Do you see either of those two guys going this high, or where do you have them graded out?
Yeah. Yeah. So Bud Clark, I know there's some Bud Clark fans out there.
Hmm.
I have him as a third rounder. I like him. Jacoby Thomas, I do like too. I actually am a big fan of so many of these Miami defensive players. I mean, Keontae Scott is someone I like a lot too. Um, the my highest rated safety left, actually, we have not mentioned yet, and just hope and pray he keeps falling. Is Zakee Wheatley from Penn State.
Hmm.
Um, you go look at his testing, and he's not fast. I mean, he's just not super fast. But he had good agilities, and he's 6 foot, he's 6'2". He has good agilities. He's a very willing tackler. And yes, he's not fast, but he covers good ground when you have him on the back end because of his length. So, that 40-yard dash, in my opinion, is a little misleading, but because it takes his 6'2", takes him a little bit to get going. And but once he's already back there, safety already moving, he breaks on the ball well. He comes down. He's not afraid to hit you in the mouth. Yeah, he only weighs about 200 pounds, but I mean, he reminds me of Kalen Bullock from USC if he had more sand in his pants.
Hmm. So the Bears pick is finally in. We did all that talking about safeties just
Mm,
for them to go D tackle. They go with Grayson Halton out of Oklahoma. So
yeah,
we've talked about some Oklahoma defenders. You brought up R. Mason Thomas, but Halton goes off the
yeah.
board here at the tackle. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I like Halton. I have him as a day three, so a little later than this. But I mean, he has some flashes. I mean, there's some times where he'll just anchor down and he won't get moved, and then
Hmm.
there's some times he's bursting through. I think he's a little too inconsistent. I think there are times where he'll get washed. He'll get kind of he'll get caught making a move and then just get washed away. But with a little bit of coaching, I think Grayson Halton is a solid defense tackle. If he gets coached up a little bit, a little more active with his hands, getting people off of him, I
Hmm.
think he is a good defensive tackle. So I can't blame this pick.
Hmm. So now on the clock here, we got the San Francisco 49ers at 58th overall. Their first rounder was Casey Concepcion at receiver. And looking at some of their other needs, now that they fill out that room, it's safety, it's edge, it's some offensive linemen. You know, obviously at receiver, they don't need another one. You have Mike Evans, you have Christian Kirk. In this situation, they drafted Casey Concepcion. So if you were San Fran, what would you pick they go with here?
Yeah. So first of all, the pick of Casey Concepcion. I mean, I love that pick. He's my wide receiver one.
Yeah.
I mean, you're telling me we have to worry about Casey Concepcion getting the ball in open space in a Shanahan offense, I think we're in trouble. Like anyone that has to stop it. If you're in the NFC and you're gonna have to run into this team in the playoffs, and if they're healthy, it's not a good thing. But when you're looking at what they need now, you're looking at safety. They have Jair Brown and Mustafa, and then on the edge they got Bosa and Michael Williams, and Michael is not shown to make much of a jump in the pass game. My highest graded player when it comes to those positions is Zakee Wheatley at safety. I mean, I think you plug him back there, he covers ground. I think in that division, you got to worry about the Rams and that passing game. I think Zakee Wheatley can make a big difference. And then edge rusher, though, I mean, I like R. Mason Thomas. I don't think that's their flavor of rusher, though. I think they like a little bit of a bigger edge rusher. And then when I look at who that would be and who's left, I'm not sure. Maybe a Derek Moore out of Michigan is something they like a little bit more than R. Mason Thomas.
Speaking of edges, a guy like Danny Dennis Sutton from Penn State,
Yeah.
he was mocked, right around here. So he's an interesting name. Also, Nadam
Yes.
Tucker from Western Michigan. I admittedly didn't know that much about him until I saw him in Mobile, and he jumped off the field to me. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I mean, I like Tucker. Again, it's another small school guy, and that always, has a little bit of worry. But I mean, he was good there, and he dominated people there. And I think it's a guy I would take a shot on. I just wouldn't do it in round two.
So the pick is in for the Niners. They go with Derek Moore out of Michigan,
Okay.
like you brought him up. And now Houston Texans on the board. They had our Mason Thomas in there for a second. We'll see if that's the real pick. But just about Houston real quick, I keep waiting for them to go corner and assuming that they just put our Mason's name in there on purpose. They're not going with it here. But would you be surprised by our Mason here, even though we are both pretty high on him, just because he's not a corner?
I mean, how do I put this? I think getting on Mason Thomas in with what they've already done is insane.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, with the pass rush they already have, adding in Lee Hunter, I mean, this defensive front is going to be the best in the NFL, and there's not even, I don't think there's gonna be a question about it. I mean, they're going to terrorize everybody because, I mean, you get your outside rushers need a break, and you roll in R. Mason Thomas fresh with burst. I don't know what teams do with that.
Yeah, so the R. Mason Thomas pick is official. That is where the Texans go. And the Bears are back on the clock for the second time in 4 picks. We talked about 9 different safeties when the Bears are first on the clock, just for them to go D tackle. They've got to go safety here, I would think. I mean, we already talked about it, but I mean, would you expect safety here as well?
Yes, yes, but I wouldn't be surprised if they like a running back. I mean, will they go there? Because with DeAndre, I know Swift had a statistically fine year, but he did with Detroit with the same coordinator, and then they let him go. So I think safety would be the most logical thing, but a running back wouldn't surprise me.
Talking about running backs, a guy that I really like is Mike Washington Jr. out of Arkansas. I mean, he was a member of that Arkansas team. The team was horrible, but the offense was like top 5 in the country in points per game and yards per game, and he was a big part of that because he can run it up the middle, he can catch passes too.
Yes.
You like him at running back? Where's he at for you? And what running backs do you have graded rounds 2 and 3?
So when I go to 2 and 3, so I have Washington just outside of that. I have him around 4. I do like him though. Like I would not be stunned if he goes somewhere and is a solid workhorse. I'm a little concerned that he's very one dimensional in the fact that he does not change direction very well.
Yeah.
I mean he's got to maybe like outside zone, maybe stick a foot and go. Like he's not moving back and forth. You got to really get him on the tracks. But once he's on the tracks, he's moving. He's big. When it comes to other backs, I love Jonah Coleman. I understand he's limited, but he's going to pass block his butt off better than anybody in the class. He is going to break tackles. So, but for the Bears, I see their pick is in, so it's not him. But he wouldn't make sense to the Bears for me because he's just like a better version of Monunga in my opinion.
Yeah, so the Bears pick is in, like you said, and they do go DB. They go with Tre'Davious Stukes out of Arizona. We did not bring him up, but where is Stukes on your board? Do you like that pick there?
Yes, I do like Stooks. So I have a 2 on him out of Arizona. I think he's really good. He's, another older prospect, but he's a good player already. I mean, you just plop him in that secondary, however the safeties work out, which I assume it would probably be him and Kobe Bryant. And I think he's going to play ball for you, and I think he's going to be an impact player. I like that pick.
So now we have the Rams on the clock here with the 61st pick, and their first rounder, they went with a receiver. They went with Makai Lemon. So that fills in the need at receiver for him, but also offensive tackle and corner are common needs for the Rams here in mocks. With receiver already addressed in this, where would you expect the Rams to go?
I mean, so I know corner's like a need, but I mean, they just did so much work at corner over the offseason. Like, I couldn't see them spending capital on it, and this high capital in the draft. Um, Linebacker. I
Hmm.
mean, they don't spend on it, but I mean, are you really happy? Like, are you really content with just keep on running back, Landman and Spates every year, or do you get Anthony Hill, who can, if he gets you turnovers, if he goes and he gets interceptions and he gets some forced fumbles and just gets that offense the ball again. That's where I would go if I'm the Rams. I'd take that card straight up there. I would take Anthony Hill and I would upgrade my linebacker position.
Just talking about linebackers here while we wait for the Rams, is there a sleeper at linebacker that maybe most people have lower down that you're a little higher on, or other way around? Is there a linebacker that is mocked in these rounds
Yeah.
that you don't like quite as much?
So I would say most of them are taken. Josiah Trotter, I'm really high on. I like Jashawn Barham from
Mhm.
Michigan, but that's with the understanding that he's not a traditional linebacker. Like, you put him inside. You need to have a defense that's blitzing. You need to get him coming downhill. He just causes chaos. He moves incredible. I mean, he moves just unreal. If you want to just put him as a traditional linebacker and be like, we're teaching you how to play it, I wouldn't blame you. I think he has the ability to be one of the best linebackers in this class and defensive playmakers.
Mhm. So just to the Rams here, we talk about linebacker, offensive tackle as well. I'm asking you the same question while we're waiting for their pick. Is there an
Yeah.
offensive tackle that you like that most people don't, or the other way around?
Oof. Most people don't. I would say no. I would say for the most part, now offensive tackles that I'm lower on, that have been going high. Um, I mean, I'm not super high on Blake Miller out of Clemson.
Hmm.
Um, I understand he's had a lot of years starting. I think he's got to get a lot stronger. I think he's just real light in the pants. I think he can get bull rushed. But I mean, he's been a solid starter for Clemson over in the ACC, and I mean, it's been working for him. I don't. There's not many that I think are better than what people say. I like Cage Casey out of Boise State though,
Hmm.
and I think he's an interesting player, and I think Crownover from A&M is an interesting player too. But no one, not second round players for me.
Hmm. So the Rams pick should be in any second here, but just real quick, looking through this second round, is there a pick that's kind of really surprised you? Like, is there a guy that you had thought should be like middle round three or even lower that we've seen go here in the second round, or has it more or less kind of gone to what you've graded out?
Yeah. So when I look back, the guys that went like higher than I expected, Daryl Jackson out of Florida
Mhm.
State
Yeah.
he went higher than I expected, and then so did. I was a little surprised by the Chris Bell to the Panthers. Not
Hmm.
that he's not good, but I felt like that they needed a more of a sure thing at receiver.
Yeah. So the pick is in here for the Rams, and there goes Ty Simpson. We have finally our second quarterback off the board here at pick 61. Bama's QB goes to LA to be behind Stafford. Is that a good fit for Ty? Obviously he won't have to start here early on with Stafford there at quarterback. Do you like Ty going out to LA?
Yeah, I do. I mean, giving Sean McVay a quarterback to work under him with those physical tools is, I mean, I think it's kind of a perfect fit, honestly. Um, and then whenever he steps in there, he has a coach that is gonna get him into the best position to succeed. So, I mean, if he doesn't work out in LA, I don't think he'll let, it, he will. That's the best spot you could possibly go, in my opinion.
Hmm. So the Denver Broncos, they were on the clock and they went quick. They went with a running back out of Notre Dame, Jadarian Price. So we saw Jeremiah Love go in the top five. Now his running mate goes here at 62 to Denver. Do you like that? Was there a running back that you maybe would have put in here over Price if that's where Denver wanted to go, or does this make sense to you?
No, it doesn't make too much sense to me because I feel like Jadarian Price is really redundant of RJ Harvey,
Mm-hmm.
of a speed back that doesn't carry a lot of size and weight to him. Now they still have JK coming back, but how many eggs are you gonna put in that basket with that injury history as your one and first down and second down back? So for me, I have backs higher. I mean, like I mentioned, Jonah Coleman. I think Jonah Coleman would have been perfect there. I mean, he likes it. I mean, Sean Payton likes to rotate running backs. Jonah Coleman will block his butt off. He'll do short yardage, dirty work. I mean, he can catch the ball a little bit. He kind of reminds me of old school Pierre Thomas, um, and fill that role.
And so the Falcons, they had the 63rd pick and they went quickly too. Anthony Hill, who we talked about, is finally off the board, the
Yeah.
linebacker from Texas. So you've already broken him down as a player, but what do you like about him going to Atlanta? Do you like that fit? Do you like the room that he's going into?
Yeah, I mean, he's gonna step in there and he's gonna be right beside I guess Christian Harris. I mean, I would assume Divine Diablo is the odd man out there. Um, I love that fit in my opinion. He's just going to be able to cover ground. I mean, he's Divine Diablo. I mean, he was playing linebacker, but we all know he's a safety basically. Um, and I think Anthony Hill comes in and gives you that coverage ability that these safety converts give you, but yet he brings more size to the table. Now, his downhill ability, he's not always as ferocious as I would want him to be. But I think he fits really well here. I think for Atlanta, that's a great get. I think you have him and uh, Jalen Walker kind of roaming around back there. It gives you a lot of movement at the line at the second level.
So now with the final pick in the second round, we have the Seahawks at number 64 with their first round pick at 32. They went Chase Pasantis, offensive guard at A&M. I mean, arguably their biggest need is probably running back here. Kenneth Walker is gone.
Yeah.
Renee is not healthy. Do you think that the Seattle goes running back here?
So I, it would make sense. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't because they signed Emmanuel Wilson and he can kind of be a Charbonnet esque until he's healthy. I would think I also could see them though working, trying to like really figure out their secondary a little bit
Hmm.
because I mean you can bring in another safety, right? You can, if there's one you like, another corner if you want to not play Josh Jobe again, who in the end was fine, in my opinion. Um, so it's really the highest rated position of running back, safety, and maybe even a linebacker. But with the run we just had on linebackers, I wouldn't think they would do that. Um, yeah, I mean running back I think is where they should land.
It looks like they might be making their pick here in a second, but just real quick before we get there, talking about safeties, you brought up AJ Halsey earlier. Could this be a
Yeah.
good fit for him? Well,
Yes.
that's okay, that was irrelevant now. We brought up Danny Dennis Sutton earlier on, the edge
Yeah.
from Penn State. This is where he goes. So Seattle, two picks in through this mock. They do not address the running back need, but they still get a pretty good player there in Dennis Sutton out of Penn State. Do you like that fit?
Yeah, so he's an interesting player. I don't think he's just so raw in the pass rush game. He has a lot of physical tools. I see him plugging in there though, and I mean he may be asked to gain a little weight and play like that Leonard Williams role, and just kind of less of a rusher and more of a run defender, five tech, four tech kind of player. Um, but maybe they want him to inherit that Lawrence role. And if that's the case, then he can sit behind Lawrence and learn behind someone that is actually a very technically sound rusher and learn how to rush off the edge of that length because Lawrence is a taller, longer defensive end, hand in the dirt guy like Sutton is. So I think it's a nice swing of the bat. It probably wouldn't have been the one I took if I was going edge, but for their flavor, I completely understand that.
So to start off round three at 65, it's the Cardinals. They're actually a trade incoming. So I was going to ask you, with the Cardinals signing Minshew, do they take a quarterback here now that the seal has been broken on the rest of the quarterbacks? But we have a trade now coming in with this pick. We'll wait to see what that is. So I was going to ask you a question about this pick, but now it feels like I can't because I don't know what team is picking. Um, so we'll wait to see what the news is with this trade here and start off round three. But we're halfway through this draft tonight, rounds 2 and 3. Just a reminder to everybody, tomorrow morning, starting at 10 a.m. Eastern, we will have rounds 4 through the rest of it. So we're going to have rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7 all tomorrow morning coming at you guys. We'll be right here. We'll be on the Draft Professor as well on that YouTube if you want to catch all of that action. The first 2 rounds have been really entertaining. I talked about it last night, but just seeing how, obviously everyone has their own opinions. I certainly had my own. And then just watching how it plays out because most of the time, it's not what I thought was going to happen. Some guy takes either a different position or a different player at that position. So it's been really interesting to see how that plays out, and it's why these mock drafts are so fun. But here we go. We have the trade coming through. It is the Miami Dolphins trading up 265 from 75 with the Cardinals. So the Dolphins, looking at who they've taken so far in this draft. They took Zion Young, the edge from Missouri here early on in this round. And in the first round, they went with Colton Hood, the corner from Tennessee. So with those 2 picks already in, what do you think Miami should go with here? Trading up, they obviously know what they want. We were talking about receiver for them. Is this where they go with it?
Yeah, and it looks like that's where they just went.
Well, there we go. Yeah, it's already in. As for Chris Brazzell
Yeah.
from Tennessee, we brought him up. Do you like that fit? We talked about how, he has some positives, also some negatives. Do you think he works out in Miami?
Yeah, I actually, that is a fit I like a little bit more because he is, in my opinion, like a B minus version of Christian Watson. All right, he's gonna stretch the field. He's gonna come screaming across the middle real fast. Not always gonna win the jump balls, but and especially with Malik Willis now there, right? Malik Willis has some off the schedule plays where he'll scramble around, and Brazel can change direction and move so well. He can work with that. So I actually think it's a pretty solid fit.
And the next pick came in quickly as well. The Tennessee Titans at 66 went with Keontae Scott, the corner from Miami. We've talked about a lot of these Miami guys. You said how much you like a lot of these Miami defenders. Do you like Keontae here early round 3, and do you like him in Tennessee?
Yeah, I like Keontae Scott. I have a 2 on him. I think he is a plug and play guy. You stick him in the slot, and he's going to scream around and hit people. Uh, he's probably a guy that you know even if you don't need that position and your team takes him, you shouldn't be upset. The guy plays football.
So now on the clock here at pick number 67, it's the Las Vegas Raiders. We had them early on today taking Caden McDonald at the tackle from Ohio State, and obviously their first pick was Fernando Mendoza. So looking at the Raiders, what they might go here in round 3. Receiver is another position that a lot of people are mocking. Do you like receiver here for Las Vegas? Does it seem like this is where they might go, or do you have something else in mind for the Raiders here at 67?
No, I mean I feel like they need a receiver. They got to do something. The question is, who at this point do they feel comfortable with? Um, with Brazel coming off, you look at who's left.
Honestly,
Um,
I'm very surprised that Caleb Douglas is still on the board. I don't know if you like him. I thought he might go by now.
yeah, out of Tech,
hmm
I'm not super high on him.
hmm
I feel like him and his partner were very similar players in Original Virgil.
hmm
And I have them more of a early day 3 guys. For me, I mean, I've mentioned this on dribbling. I think he's a very prototypical outside wide receiver
hmm
that you can plug in and play. Um, and then it depends on what they want. I mean, you look at their receiver room, and you have Trey Tucker, who's bringing a lot of speed. You bring in Jalen Naylor, who also has a little bit, a little bit of juice, and then Jack Beck is more of your bigger slot style. Even though Tucker plays a lot in the slot too, so I would think they really want to have a playmaker. Um, they have Brock Bowers. That's their
Yeah.
true playmaker, and Michael Mayer is the second tight end there. So they probably are going to go a decent amount of 12 personnel, and they really only need 2 receivers. But I think if you can pair someone with Trey Tucker, who brings so much juice, that could help a lot. I think Malachi Fields could be a sleeper.
hmm But once again, the mock here goes against what we think is going to happen. The Raiders go with AJ Halsey here, the safety out of LSU. So we brought him up. How you don't really like him as a one high, being back there by himself. Do you think that he'll work out in Las Vegas? Do you think it's a good scheme for him? And do you like him here early round 3?
Yeah, I think that's BP. That right there, that's just BP, and I like this a lot. I mean, you get him in round 3. That I mean, that's incredible. And you sit back there and you look at who they have back there. They have Jeremy Chin, they have Palomau, and then they have Taron Johnson working the nickel. I could easily see him and Jeremy Chin being the two starting safeties in that scenario. And then you have two physical safeties that can move well enough. You do a lot of too high stuff. They can both go too high. One can roll down. Jeremy Chin probably rolls down into the box. Will probably roll down a little more than AJ Halsey. I think Halsey would be a little better single high when you need him to be. But I mean, I think with that secondary, you start at least putting a little bit of fear into receivers as they want to come across the middle.
So now up here at 68, we got the Philadelphia Eagles. This is their second pick of this mock. With their first one, they went with Chris Johnson, the DB out of San Diego State. So if I'm them here, I think I stay on the defensive side and I maybe try and grab an edge rusher. They failed to re-sign Jalen Phillips. They did sign Ebiketie, but it feels like there might be some more help there. So in your mind, if you want to add an edge rusher, is now the time to do it, or do they want to wait, knowing that they do still have Ebiketie on their roster, and maybe grab an edge rusher in a later round?
No, I think you start. I think you start looking at whoever your favorite edge rusher is at this point, because I think I think the drop started already at the edge rusher position. But I think if you want, like, I believe Joshua Joseph is still available. And let me look. I can double check with that one. But yeah, I mean, Joshua Joseph's still available. I think that would be a actual phenomenal pick for the Eagles. Not that I'm like super high on Joshua Joseph, but I think what he can bring to an already good defensive line group would be valuable.
So we're about 0 for 9 here on what we think they're going to pick. The Eagles go with Max Clare, the tight end
Yeah.
out of Ohio State. So they do go tight end. This was a position that people thought they might go. They do it in round 3, still waiting on an edge rusher here. But what do you think of Max Clare there going to Philly?
I think he's a good fit. I mean, he reminds me of Goddard of Goddard in a way. He's not an extremely great blocker. I mean, he'll survive in there, but that's about it. But as a receiver, he's pretty solid. He catches the ball. He'll work over the field. He's pretty fearless. He's not overly explosive, but I think he's a solid receiving tight end who will fit in that system, especially with how Goddard has been playing.
And then on the clock next was the Houston Texans at 69. They made a quick pick. I was talking about how I was waiting for him to take a corner for a while, and they finally do. They go with Keith Abney, who we brought up here from Arizona State. Is that the fit? Do you like Abney there? We've talked
Yeah.
up. I mean, I'm assuming you do like him there, 69.
Yeah, I do. I mean, whoever this Houston Texans GM is, he's cooking up something, because when you have this defensive line you created and then you throw Abney into the secondary to go along with that, and like I've said, he's such a smooth athlete, and you have Keith Abney, and then you have Derek Stingley, and then you have Kamari Laster, who's been good, Jalen Pitre. I mean, I don't know what they're doing with this room, and I don't care. It's another thing. I don't care what the plan is. It's gonna work.
So then on the clock here now at 70, the Cleveland Browns. They have already taken Carnell Tate in the first round, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren in the second round, and some other needs. You probably want to maybe get another offensive lineman. They did do some good work in free agency with their O-line, but would you maybe expect them to go OL here for the Browns, or do you think they go somewhere else?
I I would keep hammering the offensive line if I'm the Browns. I mean, they just did a total overhaul. I would just keep hammering it. I would take whoever your best BPA O lineman is, whether it's IOL, OT, whichever one it is. I would just keep hammering it. I would not let that be an issue for my team.
So they're talking about some O-lineman here they might go after. A guy who I think kind of started to get a little bit of buzz around January on the interior is Trey Zoom from Texas A&M. I don't know how much you like about him, but looking at some
Yeah.
other guys, you have James Neal from Iowa State, guys like Nawayu from Oklahoma. Fernando Carmona from Arkansas is also a really interesting name. Are any of those guys up high on your list? Or if they're not, who else would you be targeting as a
Yeah.
3?
So for me, I mean, if I'm targeting someone, Jalen Farmer is up there for me. Jalen Farmer and Bo Stevens from Iowa. I'm high on those, especially Jalen Farmer. I think he can step in there and play right away.
So the Browns actually opt for tight end here. Their pick is in. They go Oscar Delp out of Georgia. Now Delp, early in his career, when he was still playing there with Bowers, he looked absolutely wicked. And then he kind of lost his running mate there in Bowers, but the athleticism for Delp is still there, even if the numbers are down. So when you're watching Delp, even though his production, his box scores aren't quite as amazing, do you still like him as a player? And how's his fit in Cleveland?
Yeah, so I'm actually a very big Delp fan. He's tight end two for me. Big fan. How his fit, I don't know, because you already have a same style tight end there
Right.
that you just drafted last year. So how's he going to fit? I'm not sure. I'm a big fan of Delp. It's another weapon for him, and maybe they're looking at it and they wanted another receiver, but they didn't. They just like Delp more as a weapon. So I do like Delp. I think he blocks fairly well. For his size, for his makeup, he's a very willing blocker. He's a good receiver, and I think he has a high ceiling. I think he is a tight end that could be very, very good in a couple of years.
And the Commanders at 71 here, they went quick. They took your guy, Connor Liu,
Yeah.
out of Auburn at center. So we've been waiting on this guy to go for a while. We kept thinking he might get taken off the board with teams who wanted OL. Do you like him at Washington?
Yes, I do. I like him at Washington. That gives you just more options along the interior, and you have to protect Jane Daniels. I mean, you knew it when he was coming out. I mean, he is a small, like a thinner made quarterback. He will get hurt, and yes, his mobility causes some of it, but those hits in the pocket are much more dangerous than the hits out on the run. And you got to protect him and just invest in that offensive line. It will never be a mistake.
So with Cincinnati here now on the clock at 72, they've gone defense twice. They took C.J. Allen with their second round pick and Mansour Delane with their first round pick. Looking at their needs, I mean, receivers still kind of up there, some on both lines. You might want to draft somebody. Do you think that Cincinnati stays defense, triples down on that side of the ball, or do they take an offensive player here?
Yeah, so I mean, I wouldn't blame them for tripling down on defense. I mean, you gotta stop people. I mean, Joe Burrow can only do so much when he's healthy, right? I mean, you can put up all these points, and then the defense keeps letting them get away with it. The offense getting away with it. But if if I'm picking for the Bengals, I take one that's a little off the wall, and I take Sam Roush at tight end because right now you've been trotting out like Gesicki, who gives you no blocking, gives you just seam ball stuff. I would trot Sam Roush out there, who is 6'6", almost 270, catches the ball, will be a mauler in the run game, and he gives you a guy that if you face Miles Garrett, he can chip him. He has the size. He has the ability to chip him before he releases. He has the ability. He catches the ball. He has a little bit of yak in him. I think people don't. I think his yak ability is underrated. You get him rolling. He is hard to bring down. I think he's more than just like a Hunter Henry type.
As we wait for the Bengals here, we look down. We got your pick there at number 78. Just a few away. Has this third round, just give us a little bit of an insight into what your process is. Has the third round gone well for you? Have you seen someone come off the board
Yeah.
fall to you, or how are you feeling right now about your pick here, about 5 spots away?
It's working out well for me. It's kind of working out how I wanted. Um, Seeing AJ Halsey go was, I mean, I wish I could have had him, but that was a pipe dream. I never expected AJ Halsey to be here. Looking at my weakness, I mean, I filled linebacker. That was like, I'm more of a BPA. Like I like to intermerge BPA and player needs. I'm not going to sit here and draft needs, but I'm going to look at my needs, look at BPA, and if it's similar, I'm taking the need if they're close in grades. And when I look at this, look at my current state of my roster, I got a linebacker in there now with Trotter, and then I'm looking at my strong safety position. We can't go in there with our current strong safety of Hunter Waller, who has not really even played football. And then the other position is our third wide receiver. It's Nick Westbrook Akine. He's fine. But if I had to replace one of them, I'm replacing the safety. And right now, AJ Halsey's been the only one to go.
So we do have the pick in here for Cincinnati. It's Zachariah Branch, the receiver out of Georgia. So he's obviously
Yeah.
a smaller, twitchy, gadget guy. He's not really a downfield jump ball threat.
Yeah.
But do you like Branch there? I mean, first gut instinct for me, he pairs very well with those other two wideouts you already have there in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Do you like that fit for Branch?
Yeah, so he pairs really well with them. I completely get it. Their third receiver recently has been Andre Yoshifis, who is basically just down like a lighter version of what they already have, which is a bigger, longer, faster receiver. So I understand that putting him in the slot, letting him work quick game, drag routes, um, and just getting the ball out quick from Joe Burrow. Which Joe Burrow, if he can get it, if he can get the ball out quick when he's getting pressure, maybe that's the answer. Is you have hot routes with Zachariah Branch constantly. I would have gone somewhere else. Like I said, Sam Roush, who I think can impact your run game and your passing game. Um, but I mean, Zachariah Branch is a player I do like. I like him. I just think he's very niche in what he does.
So looking at the Bills now here on the clock at 73. Their only pick so far in this draft was Gabe Yakus out of Illinois on the edge. And looking at some of their other needs, receiver is still up there. Linebacker is still up there. So having already addressed edge, do you think they go receiver, linebacker here, or do they go with a different position that they want to address?
I think they're the VP. I think but they brought in DJ Moore, and I don't think they'll do another receiver because you got DJ Moore, you got Khalil Shakir, you got Dalton Kincaid. I feel like they're gonna feel like their passing game has enough. Um, and then you probably bring in someone on defense. This defense, as well as is done statistically, it's never felt like it's been an impact defense, which is it's weird because they get turnovers, but I feel like defense would be the way to go. And I think linebacker would be a nice spot. Looking at who would be available, I think Jashawn Barham would fit this group well. I mean, you put him out on the edge, let him play outside like they would probably like Yakis is probably going to do, and you just double down on it. And one of them was you just bet that one of them will hit.
Two names that have been kind of popular too at linebacker are Bryce Betcher from Oregon and Deontay Lawson from Alabama. Those two guys, do you have them graded out in round three? Are
Yeah.
you a little higher or lower on them? What do you think about those two?
Yeah. So I'm a little lower on him. I like Deontay Lawson. I have Deontay Lawson. I do have it at 3. I think his floor is very high. I think his ceiling's low. I think you're going to get what you get. I think he can step in. He's going to plug the run. He's a big, long linebacker, and I do like him. I don't know. I wonder how the Bills will feel about him. I know the defense is new, so he's not anything like the linebackers they've drafted recently, but their defense may want someone bigger like that. I do like Lawson a decent amount, but another linebacker I do like more than I don't see him talked about like at, at all, um, is the linebacker out of Utah, which is Lander Barton. I mean, I feel like he's rarely talked about. I like him a good bit. He has some flashes of movement. He's got size. He, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he would come in at tight end for them. If I remember correctly, like he would just show up in the offense randomly and play tight end. I mean, he's 6'5", he's 230. He he can move fairly decent. He's physical. He's a good athlete, and I feel like you plug him in there in the middle of the defense, and I feel like you could really hit something. I think he's a Deontay Lawson with a ceiling.
Do you think Buffalo has more of a need at linebacker for more of a cover guy or a run stopper? Like, is there one of those prototypes that you need to have on here?
I I think they need more of a run stopper because I think they have enough in the coverage spot in it, and like so if you're really narrowing it down to run stoppers, then yeah, you're looking. I think you're looking at a Deontay Lawson. Would probably be the last one around this range. I would take that. I would say is like a major like a run stopper. Would be Deontay Lawson for sure.
So we had ruled out receiver pretty quickly here for Buffalo, but that's where they go. They go with Bryce Lance out of North Dakota State. They add a weapon
Okay.
to Josh Allen's offense. Bryce Lance is a player. Do you like him? And we kind of talked about how we thought that defense was a better pick, but do you think it's, a fit that's going to work for Buffalo there?
I think if you're taking a receiver, that's the perfect style to take. He will stretch the field. Now, do I think he's like blazing fast? No, but he stacks. He's fast enough to get past you. He knows how to stack. He knows how to get the ball, and he's a tough player. If you get him stretching the field with DJ Moore working your intermediate, more traditional routes, and then Shakir's working his slot game stuff. I think you have all three levels covered by a good player. So I don't blame them at all for that draft pick.
And the Chiefs, they were next up. They went very quick. They went with Jeremy Bernard, another receiver out of Alabama. So the Tides receiver number one, he falls down here to round 3. Do you like Bernard as a player? What are those pros and cons? And do you like his fit there in KC?
Yeah. So I do. Jeremy's a good player. Jeremy, he is. I mean, he just does everything right. I don't think I don't think he's going to be a crazy playmaker, but I think he's going to be reliable, which is something that Mahomes has been missing with Rashid Rice constantly hurt or suspended, and Travis Kelsey kind of not being the same player. I think he needs a reliable receiver.
And we had another pick come through very quickly as well from the Cardinals here at 75. It's Kamari Ramsey, a safety from USC. And the Steelers, they go back-to-back at safety at 76. They take Bud Clark from TCU, who we talked about. What do you think of those two players and their fits?
Yeah, I like both those players. Kamari Ramsey is a player I like. When I first watched him, I liked him a lot more than I slowly watched him. I went down on him a little bit, but I still have a third round grade on him. I think it's just a good spot to take him. I think you put him back there, and you just figure out what you're doing. I would think this signals would be like a Buda Baker trade. This is in the works because you drafted Taylor Demerson, who was going to be a little bit of a project. He had tons of speed, had tons of ability, but I like this pick putting Kamari back there with Taylor Demerson, assuming Buda Baker gets traded, getting you something. You have a lot of range back there, a lot of guys that can just get out there and go.
And then Tampa, your team goes at 77. They went with Sam Roush at tight end from Stanford. So you're on the
Yeah, I
clock
mean,
here. So I'll sit back. You can talk about Roush for a second if you want to, but go ahead and make your round 3 pick for us.
yeah, yeah. So I will talk. I will send my pick in, and then we'll talk. We can talk about Roush and my pick, because my pick is most definitely going to be who I was hoping would fall. I figured he would because I don't see him talked about as much, which is Zakee Wheatley out of Penn State. He, like I've said, he's 6'2", 200. He covers the ground. He's a good player. He's not super fast, but he gets to the sideline more than you would expect for someone that runs a slower 40. And I think it's just because he's got those long legs. He starts covering ground. He covers it quick. Once he gets going, he'll come downhill and hit you. He plays hard. He has a nose for the football ball. He has good hands. I mean, he has a couple interceptions that are pretty impressive, and I think he's a really good fit into this Colts defense. And I think you put him back there, and you just let him play behind that defensive line. That's going to cause issues, and him and Cam Bynum, I think, will be a solid duo. And then you already have Sauce Gardner and Kenny Moore sitting back there with Ward. I think you have a really solid secondary.
And then, so to touch on Sam Roush for just a minute here, before you can head out of
Yeah.
here because you made all your picks today. Just do you like?
Yeah.
Would you like that fit going to Tampa Bay if that's how it does play out
Yeah.
in round 3?
So, look, I'm gonna be as a Tampa fan. I would. A lot of Tampa fans don't want to tight. Some want a tight end. They want Kenyon Sadiq. They want that H type, and then others don't want a tight end at all because Tampa re-signed Cade Otton, who is a solid tight end. I like Cade Otton. I think 10. I think they got him for 10 per, or somewhere around there. I think that's great value. He blocks well, catches well, but that's all it is. He does everything well. And if they were to go Sam Roush in round 3, I mean, I would be ecstatic. Sam Roush to be completely honest, Sam Roush is my tight end 1. He is my tight end 1. I value a tight end that is going to block, and specifically block with their hand in the dirt, because as much as Kenyon Sadiq is good at blocking on the move and as good as blocking as an H-back, that then makes the offense have to cater around him in certain ways, because now in my opinion, Sadiq can't be your hand in the dirt tight end. He needs to be your second guy. But now he brings a lot to the receiving game. Sam Roush is going to put his hand in the dirt. He's going to crash the line. He is going to catch the ball. And I think he has yak ability. And I think you bring him in here to Tampa, and I think you can really mash the ball. I mean, Sam Roush beside Tristan Wirfs, beside Luka Decky, they're going to crash stuff. And you run 12 personnel with Kate Otten, and then they have the Coke Keefe who's been floating around like a pseudo fullback. But I'm a big Sam Roush fan, and I think any team that gets him should be happy.
All right, well, Tommy, you made both your picks. You've been talking great ball all night. You're welcome to stay if you want to, or we can let you free until rounds 4 through 7 tomorrow
Yeah.
night.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'll head out here in a second. One pick that just came through, I'll touch on is Michael Trigg,
Oh yeah.
um, to Jacksonville. I don't know what to do with him. In reality, I don't know. I have him as I just listed him as a receiver,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, and I was like, I'm just gonna put him as a receiver, pseudo tight end. I don't know. A physical ability, and I mean, I know he didn't really do testing, and the one time he jumped like 20 something inches, and then they said he had a hamstring issue. He's huge. He moves incredibly smoothly for that size, and he goes up and gets a ball, has crazy hands. I don't know what to do with him. I think the Jaguars taking him though. I mean, that I think that's a player that you plug into that offense and kind of could make a big difference if he gets used in the right way. And I would trust them to use him the right way. As a Tampa fan, I understand the play calling going on in Jacksonville, and it's good. And Michael Trigg is a very intriguing prospect. I don't think he'll go on day 3. I didn't think he would. I thought he would fall because of the character issues and all that. But
Mm-hmm.
he brings stuff to the field that I don't know if anyone else in the class brings. I don't know if there's anyone of that size that moves like that.
Mm-hmm. All right, Tub. Well, you drafted well. You had everything ready. We appreciate you joining us today. We'll see you again tomorrow for the next few
All right.
rounds.
All right. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving on here, we are still in the middle of round 3 and touching on some of those picks that happened a few minutes ago. Tim Keenan went to the Falcons at number 79. He was written in there as Big Tim Keenan at first, and that's for good reason. He is a large man out of Alabama. He was the big nose tackle who had a few injury issues early on in the year, but when he was healthy, I mean, it was very clear how important he was to Alabama's run defense. You saw in those games, like, I mean, when he was on the field, they were getting gashed. When he's back on there, all of a sudden, Bama defensively can play with just about anybody. And getting to see him in person in the Senior Bowl, I mean, it was intimidating. He is such a big dude. It felt like he was going to run through the tackling bag and hit me in the stands. So Keenan to Atlanta. I mean, the Falcons, obviously, their issues, they've had a litany of issues in the past few years, but shoring up that run defense is always a good call in the NFL. And also, Malachi Fields, the receiver from Notre Dame, he went here to the Baltimore Ravens. Now, Malachi Fields is a guy that I'm decently high on. In Mobile at the Senior Bowl, he connected with Taylor Green on the best play of the week. It was a deep post. He got behind his defender, and then he laid out and made a diving catch. So he has that verticality, but he also has elite hands and elite catch radius. And Baltimore's been looking for that, right? Because their best receiver right now is Zay Flowers, but he doesn't really have that wide catch radius. That acrobatic layout, go get a catch that no one else should be able to get. He's a great receiver, but he's more of the small, gadget, quick guy. Whereas Malachi Fields can be that bigger bodied, but still fast, still very versatile receiver that Baltimore needs. And the Minnesota Vikings here at 82. They also go receiver. It's Antonio Williams from Clemson. Now, Williams as a freshman. Full disclosure, I was at Clemson when he was a freshman. I was there for the past 3 years. I mean, it looked like he was going to be a superstar. I mean, he was the highlight of that offense that was still very talented. Clemson was still a very, very good team 2 or 3 years ago. Then he started to battle some injuries, right? And then as a whole, Clemson, the entire team, but really their offense especially, it didn't start to click as well. So you kind of lost some of that flair from Antonio Williams, some of those highlight plays, some of that consistency. I like him going to Minnesota, though, because he doesn't need to be the guy there at all. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, there are so many weapons in that Minnesota offense that kind of mirror how Antonio Williams wants to play. I think it's a really good fit for his play style to be there in Minnesota. So Antonio Williams going to the Vikings, I think will be a pretty good pick there, especially in round 3. So now on the clock here, we have got the Panthers. We have got Raj, who has made a couple of some pretty surprising picks that have really shaken up the draft boards so far. But their needs: safety, receiver, and edge. We already have him taking Jacob Rodriguez in the first round, and then his second round pick, I forget exactly, it was a receiver, and it was, who it was, I'm going to find in a second, it was Chris Bell. right? It was Chris Bell who me and Tell talked about. The athleticism is there. It's incredible. He's clearly a great playmaker. The health issues are a bit of a concern, but you're kind of willing to look past that just because of how good of a football player he is and how good of an athlete he is when he's right. So, with the Panthers, having already addressed linebacker with J. Rod and receiver with Chris Bell, you're looking at safety and you're looking at edge, as some of your needs. So, AJ Halsey was kind of mocked to him, but not really this late, and he's already off the board in this mock. Let's look at some other safeties who are still on the board. We've seen Bud Clark go. Well, like Deshaun Singleton from Nebraska, he's still on the board. I believe Jacoby Thomas is still on the board. I don't think we've seen him go yet from Miami. That would be the pick here if I was Raj and he is still on the board, and I'm not wrong about that. But there are still some quality safeties still on the board. Me and Tell talked about Michael Taff. This is probably still a little bit too early for Taff. I think he's a really good player. He's very smart. He's very cerebral. He obviously knows everything that's going on in the field. He's never going to make those mistakes. I still believe he is a day 3 guy when it comes down to it. But another SEC safety who we haven't talked about very much is Robert Spears Jennings out of Oklahoma. He's a Brent Venables guy, right? So there's immediately that degree of trust. There's that pedigree, knowing that you come from that system. I think he could be a good safety that goes here too. And just to kind of peel back the curtain a little bit here into this mock right now as we're waiting for these picks to come through. We have got a lot of talk about drafts. This Panthers pick is being flirted with as a draft from the New York Jets. We've got a lot of people who are trying to really trade for this pick and trade for other picks here in the 80s. So this might slow down a little bit here as we're waiting for some of these trade offers, to go through. But we're definitely at a point here, middle of round 3, where it gets kind of harder to wait. It gets harder to wait for some of the guys that you like, because if someone else has a similar view where they may be more optimistic on a player than you are, this round 3 is where you can go get them. A guy whose consensus maybe round 4, maybe even early round 5, late round 3. If somebody else has a snipe on someone that you like, you can lose them. So the trades in round 3 here are incredibly important. If you have your guy and you're worried about him going, you do have to move up. So that's why we have this bit of a delay here. We've got a bunch of offers coming in here for this pick. But just once again, while we're waiting to see what happens with this 83rd overall pick, we did round 1 yesterday. Rounds 2 and 3 were today. And starting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time, we have got the rest of the draft, rounds 4 through 7. So many picks, all the way up to 257 are coming at you tomorrow morning. So we'll be doing it here. We'll be doing it on the Draft Professor YouTube, NFL Draft Fanatic. I mean, every Twitter tag that you see on this spreadsheet is doing something for this mock draft. So if you're sick of hearing my voice, I damn near am already. You can go check out someone else's feed to catch this mock draft tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We are still waiting to see what the Carolina Panthers do. But just for the Panthers, when it comes to this draft, not even just tonight, but overall, they're clearly close. They're closer than a lot of people thought they were. Roster-wise, you saw them in contention for the division, for the NFC South late last year. And when you're there in the NFL, you don't need that many more pieces, right? If you hit on a couple of your drafting guys, you can maybe sign some good pieces in free agency. You can really take that jump and be not only actually make the playoffs next year, but maybe make some noise in the playoffs next year. So these round 3 picks, man, this is really where you get those, round 1 obviously is where you get your, pro franchise defining players. Rounds 3 and beyond are where you get everybody else who really makes the team go. All these first round talents, they're nothing without everybody who comes in rounds 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And there we go. We have the pick in from the Carolina Panthers at 83. He did not trade the pick. He goes with Bo Stevens, the guard out of Iowa. It's an Iowa offensive lineman. That is immediately a plus side, right? I talked about how defenders from Kirby Smart, receivers from anywhere on the West Coast, you get an offensive lineman from Iowa, you like it. Because you immediately know that they know their technique, they're mature, they know how to play the game, how you need them to play at the NFL level. And Bo Stevens is a guy who, when I was doing my stuff in the Senior Bowl with Home Squad Sports, we all highlighted Bo Stevens. We all did. He is a guy that was on all of our radars because of just the quality of player that he is. He's really strong. He's really tough. He can move you around. and there really aren't that many concerns with Bo's game. So the Carolina Panthers, they're at 83, take Bo Stevens, and that puts the Green Bay Packers on the clock at pick number 84. Going through what the Packers have already done today, they took Brendan Cisse, the DB out of South Carolina, in round 2, and I actually believe that might be their only pick so far in this draft. Let me double check that, but I believe that their only pick so far has been Brandon Cisse out of South Carolina at corner. And that is, yes, that's it. So in this draft, at least this mock, the Packers have only taken one pick at this point. So they address corner with Cisse. But now you're looking at edge. You're looking at offensive line because, Micah Parsons is on the roster, might not be ready to start the year. So if you are Green Bay, it seems like multiple pass rushers isn't a bad idea at some point in the draft. And to talk about offensive linemen, I mean, we just saw Bo Stevens go. Let me make sure I didn't miss a pick. I did not. But just some other guys on the interior of that offensive lineman. I mean, we've talked about guys like Fernando Carmona from Arkansas, Jalen Farmer from Kentucky, Keegan Trost from Missouri. I mean, Keelan Ratledge was a guy who I was surprised fell through yesterday out of Georgia Tech, but he did go today. Also, Trey Zune from A&M. There's a lot of very solid offensive guards. And now, do all of them have their own flaws? Sure they do. That's why they're around 3. But it's a bunch of players who have proven, especially going through these SEC guys, because talk SEC, you know they're going up against some of the best linemen in the country who have then gotten drafted. And we do have the pick is in here from the Packers. They take Trey Zune out of A&M, who we were just talking about. I brought up Home Squad Sports when I was talking about Bo Stevens. We had even more to say about Trey Zune. He was a guy who we felt was overlooked going into that Senior Bowl process in January. He performed very, very well in Mobile, and now we have him here mocked as an 84th overall round 3 pick to the Green Bay Packers. And the Pittsburgh Steelers at 85, they waste no time. They go with Deontay Lawson, who we talked about with Tell, the linebacker out of Alabama. So the Steelers get a tough, gritty guy to be at linebacker, and we have a trade with the 86th overall pick. The Patriots have been incredibly active with trades so far today. And they move up here. They're going to move up from 95 up to 86 with the Los Angeles Chargers. So the Patriots, they've clearly identified somebody that they want to come up and grab. Going through what New England has already done today, they traded up to pick 54 in order to grab D'Angelo Pons, the corner from Indiana. And scrolling up some more here, they had the 31st overall pick in the first round. Obviously, they went with Keldrick Falk out of Auburn. So it's been double defense so far for New England with Pons and Keldrick Falk. And going through some of their other needs, I mean, offensively, you could probably, it's worth addressing the offensive line with a depth piece. But does that have to come in round 3? I don't really think so. So where else do you go? Could you get, a true linebacker? You've gotten D-line, you've gotten corner. Could you go in the middle of the field to get linebacker? Maybe it's Bryce Betcher from Oregon. I mean, my guy Hank here, I wouldn't be shocked if Betcher is a guy that he has his eyes on. But just some other linebackers that are worth looking at here if you are New England and that's where you want to go. I mean, Trotter's obviously off the board. Golday is off the board. Jayshawn Barham out of Michigan. He's the guy that Tell brought up. He's a very, very good player. Landon Barton out of Utah. Tell talked about his versatility, how he can be even on offense. And Torian York out of Texas A&M. He's a very interesting prospect. We'll talk about him in a second. But the Patriots, they go tight end. They take Justin Joly out of NC State. Joly's dynamic. Joly is really, really dynamic. On that NC State offense this past year, where there weren't really that many strong weapons, he was by far, outside of Hollywood Smothers, he was their best pass catcher. He was their most versatile, most explosive guy. He's who defensive coordinators had to circle. So Joly, really good player. They're going to the Patriots. And the Miami Dolphins at 87, they don't take very long. They take Caleb Tiernan, offensive tackle. So the O-linemen are definitely coming off the board here. Where they're with Tiernan from Northwestern out of the Big Ten. Miami takes an offensive tackle. And anyways, what was I talking about before Justin Joly? I was talking about something. Torian York. That's right. So just going back to the linebacker, Torian York. He's a real, sort of jigsaw puzzle piece kind of guy because he's listed as a linebacker. I like him almost more as a strong safety because of his size, because of his speed. Now, obviously, you can turn that into, well, he can just be much faster for a linebacker. And that is true. But if you cut the tape at A&M, how he really did a lot of his run stopping was flying in from the secondary. Right? It was flying in from way back field because, you're able to see everything, you're able to diagnose early on, and then he knows he has the speed where it doesn't matter where he's 4 yards back from the linebackers, he can still get there. He can still track down a quarterback rolling out. He can get a running back going through the B gap or outside the tackle. So Torian York, to me, he is listed as a linebacker to a lot of people. I would almost like him more as a strong safety, but I think either way, I'm not sure he's the guy who goes in round 3. I thought he was worth talking about here, just because of, maybe he was going to New England there as a linebacker. But Torian York is a really interesting puzzle piece to me that I think is very versatile in any defense that he goes to. But we're waiting here on Jacksonville, on the guys over at Home Squad Sports. They've already taken today. They were just a few picks ago. They took Michael Trigg, the tight end out of Baylor, in their round 2 pick, if I can find it in any degree of efficiency here, which is not working out very well. But there it is. They took Darrell Jackson Jr. out of FSU, the D tackle. Tell didn't love him very much. I had a similar read. Nothing really ever blew me away with Darrell Jackson. So they've gone D tackle and they've gone tight end, have the home squad guys with Jacksonville. And some other needs for the Jaguars here. I mean, maybe an edge, maybe a linebacker, just something like that. So another linebacker where maybe do you see Torian York listed there? You know his gameplay, you know his style, you see his stats. Could maybe he be the pick? It's possible. I wouldn't hate the idea of an edge rusher here, though, because you've already gotten the interior of your DL. You've kept Darrell Jackson in state. Maybe you go with an edge rusher here if you are Jacksonville, because, you have Josh Hines-Allen. You have Trevon Walker already. I mean, you kind of need another body. And the interior pressure, it was definitely a concern. That's why they went with Darrell Jackson. I'm not sure if Darrell Jackson was really the guy. But there we go. We do have Jacksonville's pick, and it's a guy who I could not believe was still on the board this long. It is Caleb Douglas, the receiver from Texas Tech. Me and the home squad guys, we talked about him a lot in Mobile. We love Caleb Douglas. All of us do. I mean, he's so dynamic. His size is incredible to go win those jump balls. You really saw him develop from his time at Florida, where he was clearly just a raw jump ball guy, to then going to Texas Tech. How much of that skill he developed to where that was no longer just his game, right? He could do so much more. So Douglas, I understand him being a round 3 guy because I obviously understand how much talent there is in the NFL draft, but man, I think Douglas going to Jacksonville, especially given the fact that they just put Travis Hunter on defense permanently, you are kind of in need for another receiver. Caleb Douglas, I do believe, could be a great pull there. So now we have the Bears coming up here again. And going through who the Bears have picked, I believe this is one that Tell and I were wrong about like several times as to about which position they might go with. So they took Grayson Halton, the DT from Oklahoma, with one of their round 2 picks. I believe they had a second round 2 pick. I made that up. They didn't. But in the first round, what the Chicago Bears GM did here, they went with Caden Proctor, the OT from Alabama. That's right. So they've gone double on the lines, have the Chicago Bears to this point, with Grayson Halton and Caden Proctor. And going through what the Bears need, what's been popularly mocked over to Chicago, obviously edge was there, but safety. Safety is what Tell and I were talking about. And I think it has to be about that time, if you are Chicago, to go get a safety, because you're running out of bodies back there. We talked about Halsey. He's gone. Bud Clark is gone. McNeil Warren is gone. I believe Jacoby Thomas, though, is still on the board, which I can't believe if that's true. Maybe I'm just wrong. Let me go through this here and make sure that Jacoby Thomas isn't still... Because if he's off the board, I should stop talking. If he's on the board, that has to... Jacoby Thomas at safety is still on the board out of Miami. That has to be the pick here. If you were Chicago at 89, and this is how the draft plays out, and you know what you lost at safety, sure, you backfilled a little bit with the free agency. Jacoby Thomas is a guy. I mean, he is an absolute dude. Absolute dude. I think that at safety here, getting him late round 3, I mean, if you're the Bears here, where's your next pick for the Bears? Maybe we might be able to get a pick here in actually, so I'll wait just a second here to see if the Bears do go safety, and if they do go safety, if it is in fact Jacoby Thomas, which I hope it is. That pick would just make so much sense to me here. They don't. They go with another Bama lineman. They took Caden Proctor in the first round, and this pick here in round 3, they flip sides to the line of scrimmage, and they go LT Overton coming off the edge. So, they do address their edge rushing problem, which is, I mean, he obviously can't be upset about that at all. With Overton, who I do believe is a really good player. Bama really was missing him when he was out with an illness there late in the year. Overton, very good player, and I don't mean this to say it was a bad pick at all. I just really loved the idea of Jacoby Thomas there, because now looking at the Bears, and when their next pick is. I mean, their next pick is all the way down at 129 overall. It's late round 4. I'd be shocked if a safety that you love is still there. And I mean, Michael Taft will still be there, but I can't imagine that Michael Taft is a guy that the Bears want to draft in round 4 and then play. Right? That would make more sense to me. But moving on now, off the Bears, the Dolphins at pick number 90. They go to Cario Davis at corner out of Washington. So another one of those teams that I've been waiting to take a corner for a while. They do it here in Davis out of Washington. That puts the Saints on the clock. And looking through what the New Orleans Saints have done so far in this draft. At pick 34, early on in round 2, they took Denzel Boston, the receiver out of Washington. And did they have a round 1? They did. At number 8, they took Arvell Reese. So the Saints have gone Arvell Reese off the edge / linebacker, and they went Denzel Boston at receiver, have the Saints so far. And looking through what they might go with linebacker and receiver already addressed, maybe an edge rusher, maybe a corner, another team who could use a corner. But they've already addressed receiver, which is very important. This guy's already being bothered that he was on the clock, and it is Dominique Orange. We discussed Big Citrus with Tell early on. He liked him as a player, didn't know if he was ready when we brought him up, and he goes now late in round 3 to the Saints. So Big Citrus out of Iowa State, he goes here to New Orleans, and now the Cowboys are on the clock. Dallas in this draft. If you'll give me some grace again as I find through their picks, what Dallas has done so far. Do they not have a round 2? I don't believe the Dallas Cowboys had a round 2 pick in our draft. They did not, but they had the 27th in the first round. They went Malachi Lawrence out of UCF. And they had the 12th pick in the first round, which was Kenyon Sadiq. That's right. So they had the 12th pick in the first round. They took Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon, and they traded up for that 27th pick in the first round to get Malachi Lawrence, the edge, out of UCF. So now going down to their pick here, it's already in. It is Jalen Kilgore, the safety from South Carolina. And Steve, our guy from the Jets, is very upset about that pick. He just got sniped. Kilgore out of Carolina. I mean, him and Cisse, they were both very good players in that secondary. South Carolina had a lot of really good football players last year when they went 4-8, despite their team being horrible. So a lot of casual fans would look at South Carolina and say, I don't really want you. You haven't shown me anything. I don't think you're very good. A lot of good ball players. Most of them are back this year in Columbia, so we'll see what the Gamecocks can do on the fall this year. But Kilgore and Cisse are now both off the board as the Cowboys take a safety. And now moving on to the Los Angeles Rams. At the beginning of the draft, we were going through team needs. What the Rams needed was receiver, offensive tackle, and corner. And now going up to through what they've done so far in this draft. They took Ty Simpson at quarterback. That's right, we talked about that a good bit with Tell. And in the first round, I believe they might have traded. Oh, no, they did not. They took Mekhi Lemon. So they addressed receiver already, have the Los Angeles Rams. Then they went with a quarterback. So you still have offensive tackle and you still have corner out there as potential directions for the Rams to go. So we've already talked through corners really extensively, but an offensive tackle, a guy like Austin Barber from Florida, he's still out there. Demetrius Crownover, I believe, is still out there. So is Diego Pounds. But even a guy like Enrique Cruz Jr. from Kansas. Jennings Dunker is off the board. He's obviously a great pick, but like Josh Braun coming out of Kentucky. Markel Bell out of Miami. He's a really, really interesting prospect. I wonder if they would consider taking Bell here. They won't. They're going to go Caleb Proctor on the defensive line out of CeeLo. That might be our smallest school pick so far. Caleb Proctor on the D-line goes to the Rams. That wasn't really a popular need, but when you're able to beef up the trenches, you always have to do it. So the Rams do go there with Caleb Proctor, and that will put the Miami Dolphins back on the clock. Now, they just made a pick. They made the pick up at 87 when they took Caleb Tiernan, the O-tackle from Northwestern. So they addressed offensive line just 5 picks ago, and then going through what else they've done. They took Chris Brazzell at the very beginning of this round. So they addressed receiver already. Going through their other picks, they've taken Zion Young. They've addressed edge rusher, they've addressed receiver, and they addressed corner in the first round. Edge rusher, receiver, and corner are already done for the Dolphins, in theory here, at least beginning. And looking at some of their other needs, I mean, man, those are all their biggest needs. They've really already addressed those 3 big question marks. So now do you just go best player available? Jared Tell used the term BPA a whole ton. That's all it means. It's best player available when you're at this spot in the draft. And having filled your needs, you're still in late round 3 where there's a lot of really good players like Elijah Surratt. The Dolphins do take their second receiver and fill out that room a little bit more. I don't think that Surratt was BPA here, but he might have been for the Dolphins. So Surratt out of Indiana, bit of a polarizing prospect as well, just because, I mean, he can't really do a whole lot except for contested catches. He's not super fast. He's not overly agile, but obviously he's still an NFL athlete, right? So Surratt, I do believe, is pretty good there. But they took Brazel as well, right? I'm interested that they took both Surratt and Chris Brazel because I think they're very similar players. In the sense, I'm drafting both is kind of a surprise to me in the same class because I think you could have gone with Brazel and then taken a smaller, more twitchy guy, like going through some of the receivers that they could have gone, just some smaller guys. Berrien Brown, Brennan Thompson, yeah, like Cyrus Allen is still out there. Deion Burks from Oklahoma is still out there. I think that there were better fits there for Miami to take than Elijah Surratt, even though he is still a great player. And the Chargers pick is already in. They go with Jay Bram, the edge out of Michigan. We talked about him with Tell, and he is off the board here, late round 3 to the Chargers. And now the Seahawks are on the clock. The Seahawks, what is their other pick? So they picked last round 1, obviously. They went with Chase Basantis out of A&M at offensive guard. And the other pick that Seattle has made today was the last pick in round 2, which was Danny Dennis Sutton out of Penn State, coming off of the edge. So they've gone double lines, and Seattle takes a guy that I love here, Mike Washington Jr., the running back out of Arkansas. Now, Tell's voice concerns, which were very, very appropriate, by the way, is that he's not great change of direction. He's very straight line. When he gets going, he's damn near impossible to take down, but getting through the line of scrimmage can sometimes be a problem. But that's why his versatility being such a good pass catcher. I mean, you can line him up all the way out wide. He could play the X for a few snaps, and he looked pretty comfortable. So Mike Washington Jr., he does have, that slight letdown and change of direction, but his 40 time was really good. I believe it was in the 4.3s, which not a lot of people expected to have happen. But he looks almost like a linebacker when you see him in person. He has that straight line speed. He has that production at the college level in an Arkansas offense that knew that he was the issue, by the way. Like, it wasn't like there were a bunch of other playmakers on that Hogs offense. It was really just him and Taylon Green moving the ball 400 yards a game. So Washington is a guy that I'm really excited for. And that puts the Minnesota Vikings back on the clock here at pick 97 with only 4 picks left to go in this draft. So the Vikings, what they have done so far before they pick here at 97, at pick 82, they went with Antonio Williams out of Clemson. And then at pick 49, they took Caleb Banks out of Florida, a guy that I'm very high on, a player that I really, really like. And then in round 1, the Vikings' first round pick was Dylan Thieneman, the safety out of Oregon. So they have gone safety, they've gone D tackle, and who did I say? They went receiver. That's right. So looking at the Vikings' needs with all of that in mind, what their popular needs were center, safety, and receiver. So they addressed receiver. You could probably benefit from a safety or a center. And this is kind of why, if they go with a safety here, this is why I was surprised that Chicago didn't when they did, because you could easily see the Vikings take the best safety left off the board right now. There's nothing that you can do because Harrison Smith, even if he does come back, he's 37. He needs a little bit of help. The safety group is decently strong, but it's not strong enough to where you can really pass on them right now. So the Vikings, I'm going to play my flag here again. I think that we get a safety pick. Sorry. I don't know how long I've been talking where this hasn't been relevant, but the Houston Texans actually are the team on the clock here. They just traded that pick. We've got a little bit of trash talking here going on in the chat after the Jalen Kilgore pick. So that was definitely a popular one in the group. But anyway, so the Houston Texans, they took this pick from the Vikings after I talked about the Vikings for a long time. And what the Texans do, they take Nicholas Singleton, the running back out of Penn State. Now, in Mobile at the Senior Bowl, he was putting together a pretty good week. Then he broke his foot. So that injury concern obviously isn't very long term, but it did kind of hurt his ability to keep putting on for the scouts. But that's why you put together great college tape like Singleton did. So he goes number 97 there to the Houston Texans, and that puts the Kansas City Chiefs here on the clock at 98. And what KC has done so far, they took Jeremy Bernard in round 3, the receiver out of Alabama. They also took T.J. Parker, the edge out of Clemson, I believe, and they also took Jermon McCoy at corner out of Tennessee. So we talked a lot about the Jermon McCoy pick, how high Tell is on that, and just how good of a player Jermon McCoy is. So they've gone corner, and they've gone with some other needs. And looking at what KC could still benefit from doing, maybe I think some more D-line help is worth doing here if you are the Chiefs. So just some of the edge is in D tackles that we still have left. A guy like George Gums is still on the board. A guy like K'Ron Crawford from Auburn, he is still on the board. K'Ron Crawford, to me, will be a great pick. Nadame Tucker, we talked about a little bit. Is Romello Height still on the board? One second. I got to make sure that Romello Height isn't the guy who's still on the board here, because that's objectively a problem if he is. Lee Hunter off the board. Caleb Douglas went from Texas Tech. Jacob Rodriguez went from Texas Tech. David Bailey. Romello Height still on the board here, late round 3. That's the pick. If I'm KC here, I'm going Romello Height to get me another edge rusher. And, Height, I just think is a caliber of player where you don't really want to let him go by you here on the high 90s. Because if you want an edge, he's not really a guy that's going to come back to you. He's not. So, if I'm the Chiefs here, I definitely go. You have T.J. Parker already, but I honestly do think it's worth double dipping. I think you double dip with a player like Romello Height to really set up that perimeter pass rush for the next few years. So we'll see what the Chiefs do here. Only got 3 picks left until tomorrow morning. So just a little bit over 12 hours, really. We'll be back at you guys with the rest of this mock draft. Just 3 more picks to go here. The Chiefs, the Steelers, and the Jaguars will be wrapping up here in just a few minutes. But we appreciate everybody who's watching. Me and also everybody else who is a part of the Draft Professor who's put so much work into this. It is not easy to pull off. It is really not easy to pull off doing something like this with this many people at the same time, in the same spreadsheet, going through the same list of players. It's really challenging. So just credit to everybody. Credit to my guy, Jim Wickens, the Draft Professor, who put this all together. Really, it's a genius idea by him and unbelievable execution to get this all done. And man, we'll be done tomorrow morning. But for right now, we still have these 3 picks left in the end of round 3 with the Kansas City Chiefs draft. If you don't want to go edge because they already did take T.J. Parker, D tackle is the other place that I would go. Obviously, you just lost Big Citrus. Caleb Banks is on the board. Chris McClellan from Missouri. He could be a decent pick here. I don't think he'd be an issue at all. Who else is still available? I got to weed through who's available versus who's not. Keenan is gone. Zane Durant, I think, might still be there. Xavier Harris from Ole Miss might still be there. But Zane Durant from Penn State, I believe he's still there. He'd also be a great pick. I would expect KC here to go along the defensive line. But we'll see what they do here. The pick should be coming in here very shortly as we get through these final 3 picks in the round.